So immediately I was in that mode. I always call it normally like a 2-week transition period. And when you actually turn from like this everyday person, hey, I got to wake up, I go to work, I come back, I got to eat food, I go to bed, to changing into this animal, to where like your senses heighten. You can hear better, your vision's cleaner. It's really weird. Like you trust your instincts a whole lot more. Like, hey, I think something's about to happen, and then something happens. And it's really crazy. Like the hairs on your arm, when people say that, but that's a real thing, and this is that transition period. I get the lay of the land, the feel of the people, what can you get away with here? What can you not get away with here? And then I adjust to it. And that's what SF guys do really well. They adjust.
Fearless Patched. Der Podcast, der Menschen eine Stimme gibt, die sich in ihrem beruflichen Alltag furchtlos psychischen und physischen Herausforderungen stellen. Ihr Host Tom kennt diese Herausforderungen aus erster Hand. 10 Jahre lang hat er bei Spezialeinsatzkräften seinen Dienst versehen. Begleiten Sie ihn in eine verborgene Welt und hören Sie echte Geschichten von Menschen, die dort bestehen, wo andere zurückweichen.
Willkommen zu einer neuen Folge von Fearless Patched. Heute spreche ich mit Jimmy kennen. Er diente 26 Jahre in der US Army, davon 20 Jahre als Special Forces Green Beret. Er ist im Irak per Fallschirm in den Krieg gesprungen, war mehrfach in Afghanistan im Einsatz und beschreibt sehr offen, was es heißt, über Jahrzehnte als Operator und kommandierender Unteroffizier im Krieg zu dienen, körperlich, mental und menschlich. Dieses Gespräch führen wir auf Englisch, in Jimmys Muttersprache, weil ein derart tiefgehendes Thema am präzisesten in der Sprache geführt wird, in der jemand gedacht, geführt und gekämpft hat. Militärische Abkürzungen und Fachbegriffe, die fallen, erkläre ich euch gesammelt in den Shownotes. Nächste Woche folgt im Debrief eine Einordnung mit den zentralen Erkenntnissen zu dieser außergewöhnlichen Folge. Mich interessiert, wie ihr solche internationalen Gespräche erlebt und ob ihr Nachfragen habt. Schreibt mir gerne Kommentare oder folgt Fearless Patched auf Discord. Mehr Austausch zu solchen Gesprächen gibt es in der Fearless Patched Community auf Steady, mit regelmäßigen Q&As und direkten Dialog. Und jetzt gute Unterhaltung. Welcome to Fearless Patch, Jimmy. Thank you so much that you come to the place.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.
It.
And maybe I always start right directly. Maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit and tell my audience about how you grew up and how does your life started? Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be a pretty long introduction.
No problem. But, just start and
So my name is Jimmy Cannon, and I retired from the Army probably about a year and 8 months ago. From the Army, and when I was in the Army, I served 26 years there, and right around the 20th mark, so about 20 years as a Green Beret with 10th Special Forces Group, and. My whole time in the Army it taught me so many things about life. And real quick, before I was a Green Beret, I was in the infantry, I was a paratrooper. And I thought that was really good to be in before going to Special Forces. Just because I think you appreciate things more, But my time in the Army, it was very valuable to me. I learned so much about life. And I mean, you can't put a price tag on that. You can't go to college and get that kind of education. So that was a blessing to me. There was a lot of challenges, emotional challenges during that time. There were some good times, bad times, and really, really hard times.
I think so.
But, when you look back at everything and try to be positive about it, that's when you can gain, I think, like the next step of life. And that's like, to be more at peace with yourself and use those, teachings that the Army gave you in a positive manner. So that's just kind of what I'm doing right now. And kind of fast forward, why am I here in Austria? You want me to talk about that?
Yes, of course. Also, you can tell us a little bit where you grew up and how,
so
everything started.
I'll rewind. So I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, like inner city Cincinnati. So that had its challenges, back in the 80s. It was a different time in Cincinnati. So it wasn't as diverse as it is now. I would say being at school, for instance, it was like me and a couple other kids were the only white kids at school. So that was like, I think, the beginning of my teachings, of life, just from a different perspective. Like, not everybody's the same, not everybody's different, things were different back then, and it was just like one of those things you kind of learned the hard way a little bit. So if you walk down the wrong street at night, you had to worry about getting, jumped or beat up. But that was just normal. But you get used to that. So I think...
so this was a tough environment back there?
Absolutely. And I think that kind of helped prepare me, as I, grew up, and right before I joined the Army. So, I mean, it got to a point where I think there was a little bit of time where my dad had changed jobs to LA, to Los Angeles. And then our family moved to Los Angeles for a couple years. And once again, we were in kind of like a low income environment. But I loved it. But as a kid, all this stuff is indifferent to you. You just want to play. You want to go outside and throw the football around. And, that's... So, I mean, with kids, it's a little bit different, But so after our time in LA, we really liked it. So I think it was like 1986, and it was right before the big earthquake when the Dodgers had their World Series. There was a big earthquake in the San Fernando Valley, and we left just before it.
Just before?
Yeah. And we went back to Cincinnati because my dad's job went back to the same area.
How old are you at the time? I
mean, when we went back to Cincinnati, I was getting ready to start in like third grade. So I was a young kid.
Yeah.
But like my dad, he just worked hard his whole life. All my dad knows is just work hard and play like twice as hard.
What kind of work did he?
So he started out, he was a machinist. And back then it wasn't like, he never had the opportunity to go to college or anything. So it's basically be a good machinist and you get picked and you can attend some night school. And basically he got picked and he was attending night school to get a degree in engineering, mechanical engineering. He loved it. I mean, my dad could look at any type of steel and tell you everything about steel. He knew steel, and it was really amazing, like having my dad. He's very important in my life, as to my mom. But my dad was like my best friend, and he was the guy that like taught me everything, just about life in general. And I wouldn't say it was very formalized classes that he would teach me. It was just kind of like learn by, it's like a shotgun blast to the face, like hurry up and learn. But he
by mistakes and if you
absolutely, But he was always there to correct me or tell me like, hey, you did this wrong. So
you got the possibility to learn it on your own and get that feedback from your father, from your dad.
Yeah, I guess you could say the house we lived in, it was kind of adventure to me as a young kid, because there was just car parts laying all over the place. It wasn't organized. It was, but it was home. And I could go down there and tinker around with some car parts or find an old carburetor and take it apart. And my dad would probably get pretty pissed off at me, like, hey, why did you take this apart? I got curious, But I think he always made sure I had projects to work on around the house just to keep me busy as a kid. And then when we came back to Cincinnati, I think it was up till about fifth grade. I didn't want to be at the school anymore because I went through quite a bit of getting beat down. I guess you could say like during recess, getting in fights and stuff like that. And, it was just one of those things, we're all kids and, kids are pretty evil to each other. They really are.
Yeah.
And, so I got to the point where I told my dad, I'm not going to school anymore. I didn't feel safe there at all.
And what came next?
And then so what he did is he got a second job as a bartender. And once he got that second job, he was able to put some money together and then basically get a house for us to move in a better school district. So it was more in the suburbs, the next one. So I went from inner city Cincinnati to the suburbs of Cincinnati, and it was completely different. I mean, going into school and like seeing kids that were happy. I mean, it still had their ups and downs, a fight here or there, but it was nothing like what I was dealing with before. Yeah. So this school was definitely good. I got really into school at that point. I tried my best. I was never like a good student. I just did what I had to do. I never wanted to really sit down and be in school. I always wanted to be outside. Yeah. And then that's when I met a bunch of buddies, and they all had farms and stuff. We'd go out there, having rock fights and building forts and doing like military stuff, I thought it was pretty cool. And then paintball guns came out. And then we started, slowly getting a hold of those and shooting each other. And yeah, it was... That was pretty crazy.
So the idea was coming up also to go to the military, to join the army, or?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, and when I was in high school, I wrestled a lot. So wrestling also taught me a lot about like self-control. It taught me a lot about like, managing your weight. Hey, let's put this like swimming suit looking thing on you and get you in front of another dude, and let's have a whole audience watch you. I mean, I think this is extremely important to deal with, like to deal with peer pressure of like the crowd, peer pressure. I mean, and you're so young, you just got to go figure it out, and if you lose, everybody saw it,
So wrestling was the sport you did?
Yeah, wrestling. I did a lot of wrestling, a little bit of taekwondo, but not much of that, but more or less just wrestling. And I was in the marching band too, which is pretty crazy. I played the saxophone.
Okay.
I really love music. I mean, music is a huge part of my life. My dad was a drummer, and just always being around my dad, watching him play the drums, and him having a beer and jamming out with his buddies. And I think it was just something that I gravitated to, And then so we're getting ready to graduate high school.
So sports, music, and being outside with your buddies, this was the main thing. And the school was not interesting.
Not really.
To go to college after high school.
No, I had a lot of pressure from my father to go to college. He was very against the military. He did. I mean, in my dad's mind, you have to understand. Like he thinks, the Vietnam era military. That's what the military was at that time.
Was he?
He was not in the service, nor was my uncle. It was just both of my grandfathers were, and then my grandma had 8 brothers, and they were all in the service. I think all 7 of them were in the Marine Corps, and 1 was in the Army. Wow. And Uncle John, he was my biggest influence, I guess, as my grandpa, because both grandpas died when my parents were super young. One of them drowned in the Ohio River on my dad's side, George, drinking. But you got to understand, these guys had a different level of, dealing with all their post-traumatic stress stuff, from the war. Yeah. And, life was so much harder back then,
And how did they deal with this?
My grandpa George, I mean, he just drank a lot. Yeah. I mean, he had a whiskey distillery up in the attic. He made his own whiskey, and he was also a big fan of jazz music. But my uncle always said if he didn't have his whiskey or his jazz, he was an angry person. So, my dad never really knew my grandfather, because he died when he was real young. So my dad, he didn't really know what it's like to be a dad, and my uncle, right when he was like 8, I think 16, 17, whatever, he started up a motorcycle club, the Iron Horsemen. He was one of the original guys. Yeah. That's probably enough I'll say on that, but he was, he was running the streets of Cincinnati on a motorcycle. My dad was, going to school. And then my aunt, she was also a really important lady in our lives, but she ran away and lived on a Navajo reservation for like 10 years or something and then came back. But, so that was kind of like the, how my dad was framed. It's just like, hey, go to work really hard. And then when it's time off, you just drink a lot of beer and hang out with your buddies.
And your uncle who was in the army?
No, my uncle was not in the army.
Just your
all my grandfathers,
okay.
Yeah. And I guess you call it great uncles, the brothers of
okay.
Yeah, because they were all, on my dad's side, it's all Irish, and on my mom's side, it's all German. Yeah.
All German.
Yeah.
Okay. So, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you didn't want to go to college, and you wanted, at this age, you finished high school and you want to join the army.
Yes. So I didn't finish high school or I did, but I tried to join the Army earlier. They had a program. You could join when you were 17.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to my mom and my dad, and I said, hey, I really want to join the Army. And it was like, absolutely hell no. You know, you got no way to stop speaking military. You know, you're going to go to college, because my dad's working, 2 jobs just to save up some money to put me through college. Mm-hmm. And I said, all right, and then came time when I was 18, and I tried out a community college, or actually went to the University of Cincinnati for like 1 week. It was for mechanical engineering.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I went into the first math class, and I was just like, I couldn't even focus. It was just too advanced. I wasn't ready. I don't even know how I got in there. And then so the next thing was like to bump it down and go to a community college. It's like kind of like a college that preps you to go to like a bigger university. And I went there, same thing. I wasn't into the vibe. All the guys are just like chasing girls. I mean, I was chasing them too, but it was just different. Like no one was like truly motivated. It just all seemed kind of fake to me. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I was wasting my dad's money going to school. Mm-hmm. So I went, it was like 1 week at the community college. And then it was right in my first test. I got up, I turned the test in, and I told the teacher, hey, I quit. I'm going to go fill out the little yellow slip at the administration's office. And she's like, well, hey, don't do this. You need to think twice. We have a counselor and all this. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, I'm done. And that same day, I went to the recruiting office, and I was still unsure. I knew I wanted Army because of my great uncle John, because he was in the Army for 20 years, and he actually married a German right after the war. Yeah, Tekla was her name. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she spoke only German in the house. Yeah. She was, but she was also a really important lady in my life. Mm-hmm. But I would say, I walked in, and first one I went into was the Marine Corps office. Mm-hmm. And the guy looked right at me and said, are you ready to be a man? And I turned around and walked right away. And I said, hey, man, I was telling myself, if I'm already like intimidated by that, what's the military going to be like? So I said, no, I'm going to go to the Army. I saw some brochures about Army Ranger. I wanted to be an Army Ranger. So I walked in and said, hey, I want to join the Army. And then, they do your background check and, a couple other things. And then you fill out a bunch of papers. Yeah, the next thing you know, I was signed up to be into the Army. And then there was like a little bit of training they do to prepare you, just to make sure you can do some push-ups and sit-ups. Mm. But that was all easy for me. I mean, I was wrestling, so yeah.
When did you tell your parents?
Yeah, I told them probably a couple days later, and I was up there helping my dad re-shingle the roof, meaning like take the shingles off and put some new ones on. And I said, hey, Dad, I joined the Army. Mm-hmm. The look he gave me, I thought I was going to get tossed off that roof. Mm. That was, I feel like I let him down. And then I told him I quit the school, because I didn't even tell him I quit school. I told him I quit the school. And yeah, that was, I mean, the look, and my dad only needs to look at you like one way, and you just know you messed up, and you should start running for the hills, Mm-hmm. But I would say that I think he was, I don't know, I think he was scared. I think he was scared that he was going to lose his son, because I'm like the last cannon left, Mm-hmm. And I would say that I think he was more scared than anything, because he doesn't have me, he can't watch over me anymore, He's going to, basically somebody else is going to mold my mind and create a different way of thinking. So I think that was his fear. Yeah, fast forward, the recruiters came in a van and gave my mom a coffee mug and said, hey, here you go. And my mom just started crying, and then I got in the van and we drove to the...
So they pick you up at home?
Yep, they pick you up from the house.
Yeah.
And you go to like a office where they in-process you.
Yeah.
And it's basically preparing you to get ready to go down to basic training. Yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting.
How was basic training?
Man. It was something else. I mean, that is like your first eye-opener to what the Army is, I would say. So, of course, you're thinking in your head like Full Metal Jacket or something like that, And I would say, like, you just have to go in and figure it out. So, this is the 1997 when I went to basic training. So the Army was much different then than it is now. I mean, completely different. And I would say as soon as you go to Fort Benning, because MEPS, they call it, it's like the office where they prepare you. That was in Columbus, Ohio, because it's like the capital of every state kind of has one, and then they send you down to basic training. My basic training was in Fort Benning, Georgia, and that was like the home of the infantry back then. So we go to this place called 30th AG. It's another in-processing office, and they have all these different basic training battalions, and I think it's all randomly picked, and you just go, and there's like rumors about this one, rumors about that one. But I'll tell you, Thomas, it was New Year's Eve, and, we're in our bunks. Everybody's still scared, like trying to figure out, waiting for this assignment to go down to the actual battalion. And it was probably like, 2 or 3 in the morning. It was definitely after midnight. The door gets kicked open, and there's these 2 dudes. They're wearing civilians, and they were super drunk, and they were just yelling and screaming, running around punching dudes in the face, kicking people, throwing them out of their bunks. And, I thought basic training just started. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, man, this is hardcore. But just hold on. I'm laying on the top of the bunk thinking, like, he's not going to see me. Then I just feel like a couple fists coming over the top. Most of them missed. There was one that, scraped the side of my face. But I literally just fell out of the bunk and fell right into the push-up position. So these guys are running around and yelling at everybody, saying we're no good and all this. And I'm like, okay, I knew that was coming. And it turns out...
You knew that something like this was coming.
I thought it started.
Yeah.
I knew there was going to be this hazing moment,
So I thought, like you said, Full Metal Jacket, now it starts.
But it turns out these dudes were just two drunk guys from 3rd Ranger Battalion. Okay. They had access to like the new guys. I don't know if they knew some dudes or whatever.
Make some fun.
They just came in and just like went to town on us. And we're just like, everybody's like, oh man, this is going to be insane. But yeah, it turns out they were just 2 drunk 3rd Ranger Battalion guys, and just having fun with the new recruits. And then, a week or 2 later, I went to, 254 was the regiment and the battalion and the regiment, Hell's Kitchen, they called it.
About how many people, how many guys started this?
Yeah, so...
And are you able to quit, or you're not able, at this moment, you're not allowed to quit
I would say, it's very discouraged. Like, they're going to make you feel, like, I would say it's an organized prison. It's like prison with a little bit of benefits, But I would say that the amount of people that were there at 30th AG, it was probably, I don't know, maybe 200 people or something like that. But you got to understand, it's just a machine, this 30th AG, just to get people assigned all their uniforms, their boots, sizing, hats, all this stuff. And they basically prepare you and your packing list for basic training. So when I actually got to the basic training, you're only really interactive with a platoon of people, and that platoon is 30 to 40 people. And you're not too interactive with like the company itself, because you're in the barracks with your platoon. It's just like day in, day out, and it was 8 weeks of basic training, a lot of road marching, a lot of time behind the rucksack and the feet, and a lot of running, just a lot of hazing, a lot of times just pushing, doing push-ups. And then so you graduate, they give you I think 6 hours off at the time, just to say hello to your parents and stuff that came to watch, if they did come for that one. And then since I was in the infantry, they pushed us straight into the ITB, the Infantry Training Battalion. So it was just basically basic training all over again. And I think that one was 6 weeks maybe. I could be wrong on that, but that was such a long time. But it was just more advanced infantry tactics and stuff like this. So during that part, they tell you what type of infantry guy you're going to be, because I had an open contract. The only thing that my contract had was an 11 X-ray with Airborn. So I was guaranteed to be infantry, but the X-ray meant that my actual infantry job is open-ended. They could make me a mortarman at the time. There was a driving the Humvees at the time, a tow gunner. The other one was mechanized, driving the tanks and stuff. And then 11 Bravo was just a foot soldier. everybody wanted to be light infantry. Or most guys did. And then I was guaranteed airborne school. But they did say, because I wanted to be an airborne ranger, like, hey, you'll have a chance to go to Ranger Battalion. Like, they're going to come and you just have to, like, sign up. Okay. So I complete ITB. My parents, my grandma, everybody comes, to watch me graduate. That was pretty cool. And then I was off to airborne school. And airborne school was 3 weeks long. I definitely remember that. This was like ground week, tower week, and then jump week. And that was like my first time with other services and seeing other people from the Army, because it was different ranks and stuff. Because some people come from other parts of the Army just to come there to get qualified and go back, or maybe go to an airborne unit. So
you were one of the younger guys.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I was 18. I was just like, what is going on? I'm always getting yelled at. I looked like I was 14 because I didn't age really. I couldn't even grow any facial hair, So I got selected to be an 11 Bravo, light infantry. And then, then I went to airborne school. And then at the end of airborne school, basically I got orders to go to the 10th Mountain Division in Fort Drum, New York. So as a private, I don't know that's a leg unit. And when I say leg unit, it's a non-airborne unit. So I was kind of bummed out about that. But I did hear they had a LURS unit there, a long-range surveillance detection company, because all the units had LURS teams at the time. Most of them got disbanded. There's only a few of them left. But, so when I was there, thinking that, I'm going to the 10th Mountain, I was pretty bummed out about that. I really wanted to go like the 82nd or, I think there was a airborne detachment or unit at the time in Alaska. I think it was. I forget the name of the, Anyways, so it's the last day of airborne school. All right. So keep in mind, we just graduated. I still haven't been back home. I was getting the itch to go back home because I had a girlfriend at the time there and I just wanted to see her. So like they said, there was these 3 dudes. I still remember to this day. They looked like the scariest dudes I've ever seen. They all had black berets, because back in the day, the black beret was Ranger Battalion. And they came walking up in the foyer area, right? So they're yelling up to the barracks, with all the windows and stuff. And they literally said, if any of you pussies have the courage to come to Ranger Battalion, get your fucking ass down here right now. And I was like, oh shit, and they were just yelling this over and over. And then I'm looking out the window, and I just saw like these dudes were like the Army, like that's a commando down there. So immediately it was fear. I was like, man. But so right away, that was my chance to go to Ranger Battalion right off the bat.
And not to a mountain battalion.
You automatically get deviated from those orders. It's basically you go to, at the time, it was RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program. And they also had ROPE, was like for the NCOs that were already NCOs to go. But I think now it's like RASP. It's called RASP or something now, but it used to be RIP and ROPE, so it was RIP. I mean, just think about those words, Ranger Indoctrination Program. That just sounds crazy.
It sounds crazy.
And it's like RIP, like God bless you.
Okay, great.
So, that was my chance. And honestly, I was battling with, I've been here too long. I missed Cincinnati. I wanted to go back. I wanted to see the girlfriend, and that got the best of me. So I looked at that. There was a little bit of fear involved, and I also let, this girl back in Cincinnati get the best of me. I mean, I'm 18. You shouldn't be like, hemming up all your life to get married to some random girl that you barely know. And, I chose to go back. I chose to go to Cincinnati. And that was that was my very first regret. There was always the what if. But moving on, I go back home and I found out this girl was cheating on me the whole time. So it made that decision pretty easy, you know. And then, so I went to the 10th Mountain. I was in Alpha Company 187. 10th Mountain was interesting just because the weather there was unforgiving. Oh, man, you're talking for northern New York. I mean, the size of the snow there, it's insane because it's all lake effect snow. It would snow so much overnight, you could jump out of your barracks window into the snow, doing stupid private stuff, barracks parties and whatnot. But, that unit, though, when I went there, I learned so much. I was surrounded by great NCOs. I was surrounded by great leaders. I remember still my very first battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Fuller. And I remember he had 2 jump stains, we used to call it, so mustard stains. He jumped into Panama and Grenada. And he had the old Grenada Raider Ranger scroll on his right shoulder. And he had the scar, like, on the side of his face. And I remember, like, you just see him and you just got instantly motivated because that guy he was a leader. He just walked around. That's all. He didn't have to say anything. You just knew, you know? And some of the NCOs I had, you know, they were just amazing. I mean, they forced so much stuff into my head and, like, really learning doctrine. At the time, the FM 7-8, I mean, you lived and breathed it, and the Ranger Handbook. And basically, they just prepared you for war. That was their job. You live in the barracks, you wake up, you go to the field from like Monday through Friday, you come back on Friday, you clean all your stuff, and then it's a race to get out of the barracks before the NCOs grab you and put you on detail. So you're trying to race downtown to spend all your money on, you know, strippers and booze and all this, all the stupid stuff. And but I learned so much there, just how to be a good basic soldier. And the importance of, like, field craft, the importance of, like, noise and light discipline, you know, just the importance, like, how to pack a rucksack, you know, teamwork, you know, how to work, like, within a team, like a real team. And you totally, like, you needed each other. And if one guy slacked on one thing, the whole squad would fail. And I started out, my first job was an assistant machine gunner. And at the time at Fort Drum, we only had 2-man gun teams. So it was the gunner and an AG. And then how we did it back in the day was the gunner was the senior guy and the AG was your junior guy. But the AG also took on the duties and roles and responsibilities of the AB, the ammo bearer. So, I mean, my rucksack just on average was like anywhere from like 40 to 50 kilos. So I got really good at rucksacking. And the guy that was my machine gunner was Specialist Best. I still remember him. And he was a machine gunner in the United States Marine Corps. And then he transferred services. But he fought in, I think it was Grenada or Panama, one of those two. But, I mean, I had a gunner that has already seen combat. You know, to have a CIB back then, it was pretty rare. It was only the Somali guys, the Panama guys, and the Grenada Raider guys, you know.
So this was also a very experienced guy, and he was some kind of a mentor also for you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we had the M60 back then. And then a couple months later, we got the 240 Bravo. And that guy showed me stuff to, you know, how to shoot that machine gun that, I mean, you can't unlearn that. Just ways like crew drills, you know, how to just load that thing like super fast, how to shoot at aircraft with it, like all this crazy stuff, like different types of fire, you know, your plunging fire, your strafing fire, you know, the beaten zone, the dead zone, like all this stuff. Like it doesn't make any sense when you're first reading it, but to actually know it and when you apply it, it's super effective, you know, because this guy had like real world experience. I remember asking him, we were sitting in the patrol base because most of the time the gun teams get, you know, ORP security. And I was like, Specialist Best, you know, hey, what's it like to be in combat? And he just looked at me. He's like, let me tell you something. And he's like, hey, when the rounds start flying over your head, you got to move. You don't sit around. You make a move. You make a decision and you go with it. Do you understand me? And I was like, roger that, Specialist.
How old was he at the time? And how old were you? Were 19 at the moment at this time?
No, still 18.
Still 18, yeah.
Yep, I was 18, and he was probably, I don't know, probably in his early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was always chasing women and doing crazy stuff. He never really mentored me outside of work. You know, whenever I got some time off, he was always gone with random girls and stuff. But the knowledge that guy had, you know, about the machine gun. And I remember one time, you know, I put WD-40 on the machine gun. I didn't know, you know, and then we're shooting like a full, shooting a machine gun table, some kind of qualification. And there was like something where you had to shoot like with a lot of burst modes and stuff. And the damn machine gun caught on fire. There was like this flame that came up. And he knew exactly what happened. He looked over, he just smacked me on top of the head so hard. And I already knew like what I did wrong. You know, it was pretty wild. But yeah, you know, fast forward, I got a persgram, we called it. It was basically redirecting you to another unit. Because here I am as a private, airborne qualified, and my first sergeant saw me one time because he came from the 82nd. He's like, Private Cannon, you want to go to an airborne unit? I was like, hell yeah, first sergeant, you know. And yeah, a couple weeks later.
So is this the way at this time, as a young soldier, you were deployed to different units, and then you're on training, and then you already had your airborne training, and then you were deployed to an airborne unit?
Yeah, so basically you get like these... you can get change of assignments, and this was pretty frequent, especially when you finished, like, I signed up initially for 4 years. So I'm like halfway through it, and my first sergeant basically redirected me to the 82nd, and that was a change of assignment, and that can happen because at the time airborne units took priority just because, you know, the Army pays you to go to airborne school. You have a qualification. They want to use that qualification. And everybody can always use more privates, you know?
Of course, yeah.
So here I am, you know, I got my orders and said goodbye to everybody. I had some really good friends over there. And, yeah, I had an old Ford Bronco too. I had a couple duffel bags. I put them in the Bronco, and I drove down to Fort Bragg, down to Fort Bragg, and in process of the 82nd Airborne Division. And then I was further assigned to the 1st of the 505th. Panther, first Panther, so I'm there at the 82nd, you know, once again, meet, you know, great leaders, I meet, great soldiers and stuff, but because I was still a private,
was it also special to get to Fort Bragg the first time? Was this something special?
I think at the time, maybe, I don't know, because the Army was like much smaller than it is now, but, I mean, to be in an airborne unit, I was pretty proud of that, you know. But then again, when I was at the 10th Mountain, I learned that it doesn't matter if you're an airborne infantry soldier or a leg infantry soldier or what. It doesn't matter. It's all about just being a good infantry soldier, you know. And at the 10th Mountain, they were fantastic dudes. And when I got to the 82nd, it was still light infantry. I was in 1505 doing the same stuff. And I was outperforming a lot of these guys because I had really hard NCOs at the 10th Mountain. The only thing different is you jump like, you know, sometimes 2 times a month doing like battalion mass tacks or, you know, a company jump or something like that. And you're just going to the field. You just go a different way by parachute. Yeah. And, I thought at the time that the 10th Mountain was, better trained. And, but the 82nd, there was like some arrogant dudes, I thought, you know, like with the airborne stuff. And it was cool, don't get me wrong. And I can see, you know, it's like you get an extra school in the Army or you get this extra thing to make you special. Then the ego steps in.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and they look at the 10th Mountain guys, you're all legs, you know. Which I thought was, that was my first eye-opening experience with like the ego stuff. Yeah. And so I think within a couple months I was there. I went to pre-ranger. I got picked to go to pre-ranger. I went there. It was 2 weeks, and that was insane. Back then, that was like, we used to have a nickname for it. I don't know if it's appropriate to say on this show, but it was pretty much like an indoctrination camp that was out in the middle of nowhere, and they just did all kinds of shit to you. I mean, it was more or less like they weren't like starving you or beating you down or anything. Meals just came real sporadically, and you were just always up. You were always doing some kind of physical activity. I mean, it was just miserable. It was cold. It was freezing. You go down there to the, we had this like little area there. It was the PRC at the time, the pre-ranger course at the 82nd. And there was a, like this pit you get smoked in, and it was always full of water, and you're just wet, and you're just miserable, you're tired, and you just got to survive for 2 weeks. So after that, you got the weekend off, and then I was on a bus going straight to Ranger School. Yeah, so 64 days of just
So
hell.
before there is, because my audience is not so familiar with this topic, so you go to pre-ranger training for 2 weeks, and this is more kind of...
They need to make sure you can pass all the events before they spend money on you to go down to ranger school. But you have to understand, in the infantry, you have to have a ranger tab. Like, if you want to be a respected NCO or a respected officer, you have to have a ranger tab in the infantry.
Yeah.
Other than that, nobody really listens to you. And it's just like it's the mark that sets you aside from everybody else. That's the mark of a leader. That's the mark of a guy that when the going gets tough, he's going to rise up and he's going to take charge and he's going to figure it out. That's how it was looked at when I was in back then. Yeah, so I go to Ranger School, and when I was there, I get through 0 week, and back then this was like only 3 phases, because 1995 they ended the 4th phase. There was actually a desert phase, but they ended that in 95.
Okay.
So now it went down to 3 phases. So you had Benning phase, you had mountain, and or Darby, really. So Darby, mountains, and then Florida. So I get through all the 0 week. I get through the initial week. So they used to have like 0 week and then like your initial week, but it's just 2 weeks of hell. The 0 week, you're just doing the same thing you did in pre-ranger, you know. But I think it was for other units to come in that didn't really have a good, strong program. But all the guys that went through the 82nd pre-ranger and the 25th ID guys from Hawaii, because their pre-ranger was pretty hardcore. Same with the 10th Mountain. Those guys outperformed everybody. I mean, and plus being a private in the infantry for my whole life, I mean, I'm just used to getting yelled at, screamed at, doing push-ups and, just not really enjoying life, you know? But yeah, so get through all that, and then I make it to Darby. I go through Darby. That's like when you actually insert into this training area in Georgia. Georgia.
Yeah.
And when you're there, you have to pass patrols and all this stuff. So I failed my patrols, and I had to be a Darby insert, they called it. So because I failed the Darby phase, I had to go back. So
how can you fail?
So they told me because you have to they let me go through the whole thing, and then they brought me into the office and they said, "Hey, Ranger, you failed patrols, you lacked leadership, you lacked this, and that." So basically, I felt like they just told me I was a piece of shit, and I felt really bad about myself, and I took it pretty hard. But
you're still one of the younger guys in this rank. Yeah,
I was young. So at this time, I was 19, 20, something like that. It's young.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, when I walked out of there, I mean, they crushed my soul, because in me, failure was not an option. I'm not going to go back to my unit as a Ranger failure, and but they did tell me, hey, they're going to restart me in Darby.
So you can restart and do that.
But they can also drop you. It's depending on your performance. They're like, hey, you could do all the PT and the physical stuff, but you're just a young dude. You need to work on your leadership.
Yeah. It's
just getting in guys' ass and taking charge. So I went out, I slept on the gravel parking lot. That's where all the failures go for like the night. And I served some time in the gulag, they call it. And it was like a place you go to and you just do details and you're waiting for the next course to start. Then I was a Darby insert. Yeah, the gulag. And you do just crazy stuff, cutting grass with scissors and just getting yelled at all the time. But it was also kind of cool because there were some times where the younger Ranger instructors, they would come over to practice teaching their classes. And it was really cool. So we just got more and more classes, you know? And, and you got to eat, 3 meals in the chow hall every day. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, so I was there for maybe a week and a half, but I've heard horror stories where guys stay there for a long time. And Best Ranger was coming up, and normally they keep all the Ranger holdovers, they call them, the guys that failed, and they would just go do details for Best Ranger. But they were going to do that to the next group of guys coming in. So they got me out of there. So 2 weeks later, I was back in Darby phase with a bunch of new guys. So I had to earn the trust of all these random dudes, And, so did that. I went through Darby, and you know what? I wasn't taking. Oh man, how can I say this? I wasn't taking no for an answer. And one thing that one RI told me, like, hey, Jimmy, when you're in charge, be in fucking charge. When you're not in charge, be a good follower. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. So, like, when I was in charge, guys were sleeping, and you got to keep everybody awake, walking around the patrol base. Everybody's tired, hungry. I didn't care. I was grabbing dudes on the helmet, like, hey, wake up, kicking dudes. And if they had, like, some issues or something, it's like, hey, man, I'm here to get my go. But at the same time, when I became the follower, I would do anything those dudes would ask me to do, And you have to find some give and take with it, because it's a school it's just so hard on the mind, the body, As a young guy, I don't really want to hear it, because, like, but some of those older dudes that were going through, some of those guys came late in their career, and they were still doing it. That's impressive, So I get through Darby, go to Mountain Phase. Mountain Phase, I don't really remember much of it. I was just there. I remember, And then go to Florida Phase. You jump into Florida. That was kind of cool. And then you went from walking up and down in the mountains in Dahlonega, and now Florida's all flat.
So the Mountain Phase is in the mountain, in the Darby phase?
Darby's in, like, I'd say, like, the Fort Benning training grounds. Mm-hmm. And then the Mountain Phase at Dahlonega, Georgia. Mm-hmm. That's super country out there. Super country. The Appalachia Trail actually runs through there.
Yeah, I heard about it.
It's beautiful, but not when you're a Ranger student. Mountain Phase was tough, man. That was it was a gut check. But all I know is, like, hey, don't quit. I had my little... I've known guys that recycled each phase, a couple times, and they just don't give up. They keep putting them through. And then going to Florida Phase, everything was super flat, and we were just hauling ass everywhere, And by then, the RIs are a little bit more relaxed with you. All the guys really well in the platoons. A lot of guys drop. You'll get some other guys, some other holdovers will come in. But we had a good group of dudes, and I think when we finally graduated...
This is every phase is 2 weeks, or is this how long?
No, so 64 days in total.
In total,
from start to finish, and the actual amount of weeks from each phase, I couldn't tell you right off.
Yeah, okay,
but it's such a long time ago. But okay, but when we graduated, there wasn't many people. I would say, like, looking at my old Ranger graduation photo, maybe 60 something guys.
And how many started?
And
so they drop out also in different kind of phases.
Yeah. So when those guys drop off in that phase, like, you don't see them, because you keep going on.
Yeah, keep on.
They just get inserted with another group of dudes, and then as you move on, you get other holdovers. So if you're showing up to Florida, there's, like, I think we had a couple holdovers that joined our platoon. But it was kind of cool because they've already been through it, and you're like, hey, man, what's going on? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? But it was kind of nice to have those guys. But yeah, we graduated, and I go back to the 82nd. Now I have PFC rank, private first class, and a Ranger tab. That's probably, I could walk on water.
Not so common.
I could go out, I could drink, I could get in trouble, fight, beat people up, and I would never get in trouble, because, like, you have the coveted Ranger tab. Mm-hmm. So within a week or two, they promoted me to specialist, and then they made me a fire team leader. Mm-hmm. So I went from... In the infantry, I was an assistant machine gunner. I was a grenadier, had the M203 for a while, and man, I learned so many cool tricks on that one. I always wanted to do a YouTube video about how to really, because you could actually use that as indirect fire, which is really cool.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I became a rifleman, and then the fire team leader. So being a fire team leader, I was 20 years old. I had a Ranger tab, and I had specialist rank, and I wasn't even old enough to buy beer. I had a couple guys in my team.
That's an interesting.
I would just say, "Go give me,"
Yeah. That's an interesting thing.
But it was really crazy. Yeah, I know it's really interesting for the Europeans.
Of course, yeah. You're old enough to go to war, but you're not old enough to.
And you could drive at 16. Like, that's crazy, Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I had
good different culture. It's different.
Yeah. So I was coming up to my time to re-enlist. I was basically coming up on my 4-year mark, and I had to re-enlist. So I'm like, 22 at this point. So I did about a year and a half as a fire team leader. Mm-hmm. And just crushing skulls. I mean, it was such a great time, and I had so many good peers. A couple guys,
So these 4 years was all about training, or
it was like from day one basic training all the way to me being a, Ranger tabbed E4, and I made E5 within those 4 years. So now I had to make a decision. Do I want to stay in the Army or do I want to get out? And at first I kind of wanted to get out. I wanted to go to California and like be a surfer and like all this stupid stuff. And then my sergeant major talked to me, an old command sergeant major, Earl Rice. He's an old gangster. He was supposed to be the sergeant major of the Army at one point. I knew he was in the running for it years ago. But he was a big mentor in my life. And he just looked at me right in my face and said, "You're not going anywhere. You're going to stay in the Army." And he's like, "I'm going to do everything I got to do to keep you here." And I'm like, "Roger that." And he's basically like, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "Hey, I want to go to Ranger Battalion, 1st Ranger Battalion." So we were good, had a rope date. So that was I forget what the O stand for, but basically I had to go through an assessment because I was NCO. But I had my Ranger tab and I was an NCO. And then I was going to go to, I think the rope at the time was at Benning, I think. And then I actually got pinpoint orders to 1st Ranger Battalion in Fort Lewis, Washington. And, I was motivated. I couldn't wait to get there and, like, get in Ranger Battalion. It was kind of looked differently because I didn't grow up in Ranger Battalion. So, basically, I was an NCO, a buck sergeant, they called it. But I was tabbed and everything, so I wasn't scared of any of that. I knew I had to get there, show all these guys I was worthy of being in Ranger Battalion. So getting ready to go, and so I re-enlisted, and then everything changed. So basically they were standing up a new unit in Italy, and that was the 173rd Airborne Brigade. It was reactivating an old unit that got shut down during Vietnam because they took so many casualties. And that unit has so much history. Just look it up. That's the 173rd Airborne Brigade, especially during Vietnam. Some of the stuff that these guys did was absolutely crazy. So he's like, "Hey, do you want to go to Italy?" And we're standing up a brand new Airborne Brigade. They only want the best. They're bringing in a bunch of officers from Ranger Battalion, some NCOs to get this thing started. And I think this would be a good opportunity for you to go over there. And I was so on the fence, Thomas. I was so on the fence with this. But then at the end of the day, he convinced me, and I went to the 173rd. So now I go back to Cincinnati. Yeah. We have my little vacation time. Yeah. And I'm waiting to go to a brand new infantry unit. And during my little break time, 9/11 happens.
This was the point I wanted to ask. Yeah. So we are now 2001.
Yep.
And 11th happened.
This was crazy.
In your vacation time.
During my vacation time. Yeah. So I'm on vacation, back in Cincinnati, visiting the parents, and the girlfriend I had at the time, and 9/11 kicks off.
Yeah.
So really fast, funny story about that. I was at my girlfriend's house. Or apartment, I think it was apartment in Kentucky, because Cincinnati's like right on the border of Kentucky. And so she's waking me up saying, "Hey, there's a plane that hit the World Trade Center." And I'm thinking, like, you got to think 2011, this is crazy to hear. So I thought immediately it was like an accident. No one thought terrorism. No one even knew what terrorism was, and then like, reports, like stuff was coming. Then the second plane hit. And as I woke up and I was walking into the living room where she was watching TV, I noticed that's when the second plane hit. And I said, "Oh man, this is crazy." And then like the radio stations start firing off, like alarms and all this crazy stuff. And then another one hit in the Pentagon. Then another one hit in like some random field. So we're all thinking, what the heck is going on? And as I'm like scurrying around her house, because the first thing I knew I had to do was get back to Cincinnati, check on my parents. And I told her to go check on her parents, And as I was leaving, I saw this black beret. And it had a Ranger crest on it. So I was like, and I remember grabbing this black beret, and I was like looking at her. I was like, "Whose fucking beret is this?" And, turns out, she had a boyfriend or something on the side, and I was so pissed off at that. I was thinking about that the whole time. But I just told her we were done, and then I left. She had a bunch of stories about it, but I was like, I didn't care about any of that. It's time to figure out what the heck's going on. So that was kind of a funny story on the side, so I go home and my mom and dad are my mom's crying and she's confused because she thinks the world's under attack right now. And I was like, hey mom, nothing's going on. Everybody's freaking out right now. Just make sure everything's good, just remain calm and all that stuff. It was crazy. You could see people falling out of the World Trade Center. That was on live television. It was just insane. And then when they actually collapsed, that was next level, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hear all this crap now about the controversies and 9/11 and all this. And some people ask me, hey, do I think that was intended or something like that? I say, hey, look, I think it's a really stupid question because at the end of the day, who cares? I don't care if it's a conspiracy theory or not. At the end of the day, there were a lot of innocent people that died.
Absolutely.
And for me, that's unacceptable, for that to even happen. And for someone to start thinking hey, our own government had something to do with it, that's crazy. I don't know. I'm not a part of that. All I know is a lot of innocent people died, and that's absolutely terrible. And next thing you know, it's all being linked to terrorism and this terrorist cell, and all of a sudden Osama bin Laden's name starts coming to light. Yeah. No one even knew who this guy was until the towers fell. And
did they call you to go back to the
No, because I had my my orders. It's be here at this date. And it was I think 3 or 4 days after that. And I was kind of, hey, are planes still going to fly? I'm flying all the way to Italy, I ended up getting out on the flight. I didn't even know how to call to Italy from a landline phone, so I go to Italy. And of course, I'm at the in-processing station. They basically make sure all your paperwork's straight before they push you to your unit. And I go to the 2nd to the 503rd, and there was no companies. There was only one company. The first company, that was Able Company. So the 173rd does it different. They don't say Alpha Bravo Charlie. There was no Delta back then. It's Able, Battle, Chosen. And then I think the Delta company now is now called Dog Company. It's kind of like a rendition from the old World War II era and stuff. But so I'm at Able Company. I'd meet Sergeant First Class Ayala. He was the platoon sergeant, and it was me and 3 other dudes. Yeah. And right away I knew that we weren't going to war with 3 guys and a platoon sergeant and a brand new infantry brigade. It's not possible. So I was really pissed off. And then a couple weeks later,
you wanted to do something.
Yeah, I wanted to go. I'm young. I want to go chase the fight. I want to go.
Was it at this moment? Was it clear that it already started the bombing of Afghanistan, or was?
Yeah. So basically, watching the war from afar, which really sucked. And you know what even sucked even more is Alpha Company 187 10th Mountain. They were on Operation Anaconda on Roberts Ridge, and that was a Chinook that got shot down. And that was pretty effed up. It's that was my platoon. I'm watching, at the time, Specialist Black and Clemens and, who was the other guy that squad leader at the time? Yeah. And I think Black was in on a stretcher or something at launch stool, and I'm just what the heck, But immediately I was the fact that unit got chosen to go there, I was really, really happy. Because it's just a testament to how hard they trained. And but to watch it from afar, it messed me up mentally. But I said, hey, we had a good platoon sergeant. He was Puerto Rican, no, Mexican. He was Mexican. And he doesn't dwell on bad things. He keeps a really positive attitude, and he kept us busy with our mindset. He's like, hey, we have a brand new historical Army unit to create. I need you guys to put all of your attention. Don't worry about the stuff. You're going to get your time. Don't know when it's going to be, but your time's going to come. but you need to understand this Army's standing up a brand new Airborne brigade, and it's going to be the premier Airborne brigade of the entire Army, you know, for the premier Airborne choice, you know, because Rangers were attached to something else. So I was like, okay, roger that. Let's do it. And for 2 years, we trained and trained and
became
trained.
bigger and bigger. So
So one company, boom, Able Company was created. Then you started to see Battle Company getting created. And then we're getting close to 2003, March time frame. And I left Able Company, I want to say 2002. I went to Black Sheep. That was the headquarters company. I went to the Scout Platoon. So basically they said, they let me try out. I got picked by the Sergeant Major, and the battalion Sergeant Major at the time was Earl Rice. The same Sergeant Major, the company Sergeant Major, he was the battalion Sergeant Major. And he was my old Sergeant Major back at 82nd, and he picked me to go over the Scout Platoon. So I got picked to be a Scout team leader. So it was really cool because there was 3 Scout teams, and each Scout team, and there was the Wildcat element. So Wildcat 1, Wildcat 2, Wildcat 3. I got the Covenant call sign of Wildcat 2, which was pretty cool, and we were responsible for Battle Company. So we were the eyes and ears for battle. Yeah. First in, last out. You know, all that stuff they say, you know. And, it was really awesome.
You were still always on training at this moment. In the 2 years, the build-up, this completely new
we were training nonstop. I would say that's the most amount of training I've done, you know, in the infantry was with the 173rd.
A good motivation in the
I would say everybody knew that we had something special. We were getting funded really well. We had really good gear, really nice equipment. We were jumping a lot. Plus, you're living in Italy. You know what I mean? Like, that was just...
You liked the time there?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It was funny because I lived with a dairy farming family because there wasn't enough room in the barracks. And because I was an NCO, they moved me off post. So I lived with this dairy farming family, and I was at Poiana di Granfion. You know, it was a dairy farm place. It was so crazy. I learned Italian a little bit.
How often could you go home? Had you possibilities
to Cincinnati?
So Cincinnati?
Yeah, once in a while. You know, your Christmas leaves and then summer leaves. You would get the opportunity. But I mean, it was pretty expensive. I'm not going to lie. And I know my mom missed me and my dad, you know, but I got there when I could, you know. But I love being on that farm. I learned a lot about dairy farming. Oh, man, that is hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I ate so good living there. I mean, the food was so clean. It was amazing. I mean, I was waking up at 4 a.m. to help with the cows, feeding cows, and I'd go off to work. Then I was doing PT, physical fitness training, and then a day of doing Army stuff, and then go back home, feeding cows again, and then sitting down and eating a good meal. Yeah. And wake up, do it again.
Sounds
I was a machine back then. I was a machine. Yeah. And, so, you know, we were doing a bunch of training opportunities, too, in Grafenwehr. We trained a lot in Grafenwehr. And then, so I was on staff duty one night, which is like, you get picked as an NCO. You have to do, like, watch at the desk. People call. You have to deal with it. I was an E6. And I remember Lieutenant Colonel Carasillo was our battalion commander at the time. And he come walking over, and he's like, I don't see a combat patch on your sleeve. And I was like, that's correct, sir. I don't have one, you know. And then he got all serious, and he looked at me right in the eyes. And he told me that your time's coming. And I said, oh, man, he knows something that I don't know, you know.
Okay, at this moment, you knew that something is coming. No,
yeah, because he said that and walked away. Yeah. You know, they like to walk around and stir the pot a little bit, but they can't say anything. Yeah, and months later, you know, here we are, the invasion of Iraq's kicking off. And we were part of the invasion. We got OPCON to Siege of Sodif to Task Force Viking, and that was being led by General Cleveland at the time. And the main element was 10th Group, Operation Ugly Baby. They basically got into this C-130 and flew into Iraq. And if you look on the internet about Operation Ugly Baby, you see the plane got all shot up, those guys flying in, and then they landed.
The plane shot up?
Yeah, the plane did, yeah. And actually, one of my old team sergeants was on Operation Ugly Baby. And I'll keep his name out of it because he's involved in some other stuff. But, it was just so crazy. You can see some of the pictures of like the anti-aircraft guns shooting at the plane as it was coming in, but they were able to front load some 10th group guys. And they were there basically because up in the north, there was a big problem with the, they were working with the Peshmerga going after the Wahhabi guys. It was like these hardcore Islamist dudes. Nothing really to do with like, you know, the Ba'ath Party members, you know, the actual government of Iraq. They were just like extremists essentially. So basically what they wanted to do, the plan was get the SF guys in, you know, they're detaining this, getting situational awareness on the ground, and then have, you know, two battalions, the 1st of the 508th and 2nd of the 503rd, jump in. 989 guys, I think it was.
Wow.
One pass, I think it was. And we had, 17 C-17 Globemasters? I could be off on the numbers, either 14 or 17, but I'm pretty sure it was 17. And I was on the 3rd bird, first pass, right door, and I think I was jumper 23. Why do I remember this? I don't know, because that time was very, very intense.
Okay, maybe you can think into yourself now. How was this? How was it started? When was it clear that you will jump out of the plane directly into the mission?
So we were in Italy at the time.
Yeah.
And the bombing campaigns were going on.
Yeah.
And basically we were waiting for the day to deploy to Aviano. There's an air base there. And then from Aviano, we were going to depart because I think we were trying to do it from Turkey, but Turkey wouldn't let anybody pass because they wanted nothing to do with this stuff. So we had to like fly around Turkey, and it was like an 8-hour flight or something, in-flight rig. So anyways, I mean, each night we tried to like sneak out and get that one last party with the boys, you know, wait for the call. And then we got the call. We go to Aviano. We're there. There's a guy playing on bagpipes. I think he was playing Amazing Grace or something. They're giving us shrimp and steak dinner. I'm thinking, what the hell are we getting ourselves into? Because I think the very first plan was to jump into, what was that? Area J or something. I can't remember. But basically, you know, agencies calling back saying that, you know, this thing is like full of, you know, tank divisions. Like you jump in there, you're a goner. And then we pushed up to Bashir DZ up in Erbil. And basically the SF guys were already there, like sporadically, like nothing was like secure. There's a big debate on that. But basically, we're going to jump in, link up with some 10th group guys and the Peshmerga, and then stage for the assault into Mosul and Kirkuk. So the idea was for 173rd, in cooperation with Task Force Viking, to take the north, and it was basically a big deterrence for Saddam. So he wouldn't push all of his forces to Baghdad because they knew we were coming after Baghdad. You take Baghdad, then Iraq falls. But yeah, so that was a huge deterrence, you know. So, you know, we're at Aviano, and the crazy stuff's like, it's just going through all the guys' heads. They're asking me a million questions like, bro, I don't know. I've never jumped into combat before. I've never been into combat except for Kosovo. You know, when the guy from the guard tower shot up warning shots and we all took off running, you know. This was a long time ago. But, you know, but I knew that I had to be a leader. No matter what was tossed at me, be like, hey, look, it doesn't matter. What's the mission? Tell me what you have to do as soon as you hit the ground. Yep, get out of your parachute. Next thing, get your weapon to operation. All right? It's like the basic things, right? Know your azimuth. Know the heading that you have to walk to for your link-up point. You know, how many people do we have? It's like all these back briefs, you know, what's your azimuth? What's your distance, you know? That's the kind of stuff. And you got to keep rehearsing because their mind's racing with all kinds of crazy stuff too. I can only imagine.
At this moment, you're one of the older guys? Or
yeah,
still
I'm
one of the youngest?
I'm an E6 scout team leader, very senior dude.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knew who I was to an extent. Chosen Company was still pretty brand new.
And the mindset of the other guys was also strong. But
absolutely, because we trained so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I didn't let... I was good to my guys, but when it was time for training, I was really hard on them. But when it was time to not train, I was really relaxed with them. I wanted to make sure they knew I was human, you know, because if you just beat a dude into the ground all the time and you show no emotions as a human, Like it's not healthy, especially if you're trying to build something. You get a lone jump into another country under the period of darkness.
Cool. Yeah.
So we flew. It was like an 8-hour flight, and then I think a couple hours out, 2 hours out, it was an in-flight rig, meaning we're hooking up and doing JMPI in the bird. And you got to understand, in a C-17 Globemaster, it's doable. There's not a lot of room, but you got guys that are just packed out to the brim. Because in Naviano, you're going through the line, packing ammo. I mean, it was just like a free flow market, you know? There's just claymores, you just grab whatever you want. And the next thing you know, there's no room for food. There's no room for, you know, your we call it snivel gear, the gear that keeps you warm. There were not a lot of room for that. And there was an NBC threat because of, was it Chemical Ali back in the day, you know, gassed all the Kurds, and I think it was like 86 or something like that. So there's this huge chemical threat up there. So we had this NBC suit that was in there. We had to jump our pro mask right on our crotch, you know.
Okay.
Oh, it was so crazy.
Prepared for everything, maybe also for this. Okay.
I'm sorry?
Prepared for everything, so also for
absolutely.
Chemical.
Because you got to think, like in a conventional ground unit, you only know what you know, but like special operations is completely different. They know more than, you know, most Army units, so they pack for the mission. Whereas like we were just so heavily on like contingencies. What if this happens? Just make the privates carry everything, you know? And I was a jump master as well, so I was like going through my JMPI process, like checking all this stuff, and it was just so crazy because the rucksacks couldn't hold all this crap we were packing. So we land that night. It was, we're thinking Iraq, it's going to be desert and hot. And I don't think anybody really ever checked the weather. Or maybe somebody told us, we just didn't pay attention. Yeah, it was cold, wet, and muddy. And it was insane. I mean, guys were stuck in their waist in mud. And it was just a night that just never ended. I mean, I was moving to my link-up point. It was at a base of one of the mountain ranges that were right there. Because our task was to move to a position, and it looked like we had to cross over two big hilltops at the night and put it in an overwatch position for some SAS gunners that were running around with the SAS because we were basically staging for more units to come in by ground. And we were waiting on the 4th ID with their tanks, but it's just like delayed. And when we were there, we collapsed out of that. Funny story about that hide site. Totally got compromised by some Kurdish goat farmers. And then we just grabbed him and put a sock in his mouth. You know, I was thinking Bravo T0, you know. And then he's like, you know, Kurdi. And I was like, I don't know what a Kurdi is, you know, but that was like the lack of training. That's the difference between special operations and conventional. Like special operations, they're already aware of the culture. Soldiers were just soldiers, you know. And it can be dangerous, actually.
The jump was at night.
At nighttime.
Did you see all this people?
There's just paratroopers everywhere, and everybody went to certain locations, and they started digging in, making defense positions. And meanwhile, you saw some of the SF guys laying around, you know, had some parachutes up. They grabbed our parachutes the next day to make some like shelter for them and stuff. But yeah, so, you know, we jump in overnight. That was absolutely crazy. And basically the Kurdish Peshmerga were running around with an orange-yellow band around their arm. And if you saw that, they were friendly, which was pretty crazy. Because you hear some random shots get popped off, but we didn't know if it was like friendly fire or enemy fire. But it's just like in the distance, and shit's just everywhere. So, you know, as we were walking up that second mountain ridge to our hide site, there was like guys randomly in the mountains on patrol, Peshmerga dudes, like 4 abreast with flashlights, just doing this, shooting at anything that they heard or saw, because they're looking for like these random dudes up there with SAS, these SAS gunners, right? So yeah, we saw the flashlights, and I'm thinking, hey man, they're gonna shoot at anything. They were already taking a couple pop shots everywhere. So I told the dudes, we got under this like rock culvert. It was me and my 5 guys. We got under this rock culvert, and we just hid there because I didn't want to walk up on these dudes. There's no recognition signals. You know, I'm pretty sure that these Peshmerga guys didn't get any of that, you know. yeah, so they're walking down. We see the flashlight just go right over top. We're like, dude, be quiet, you know? And they end up walking down, and we wait till they get past. You know, I think they move out about 400 or 500 meters, and then we get up, and we just keep on going. Because, like, the mission was to get to the high site. Yeah. And we got there, and we were smoked. I mean, we were carrying 80 to 100-pound packs. So that's what...
A lot of ammunition. Is
The claymores, everything.
Big, yeah.
So what, 40 to 50 kilos. Yeah. And the guy's just like, hey, man, one dude up. We got basically in a super tight security perimeter, about the size of this room we're in here now. And we threw up this D2 stalker. It's like a ghillie net. Mm-hmm. And it basically created like perfect masking for us. Yeah. And then, nobody paid attention to guard, and everybody pretty much just fell asleep. And because we were smoked. I mean, you got to think the adrenaline rush. Yeah. Like, we were in a flight. We jumped, like the surge of adrenaline. We walked, I don't know how long. We walked through a minefield as well. So tension was super high.
Did you recognize this was a minefield?
Yeah, we saw one of the mine signs,
okay.
You know.
Okay, it was a...
Yep, okay. But no one has like a radio. We had the radio up to our battalion headquarters at the time, but they were still getting, situated after the jump. Said, hey, this position, there's a minefield. What do you want us to do? Or just, hey, keep pushing on. Like, roger that. And the whole time we're walking, just like, don't even think about it. And nothing happened. And the thing is, once we got onto rock, we were fine. It was just in this small clearing area, and there was a sign that had the mine sign. And it was like pretty freaky to look at. Mm-hmm. Yep. But so we get there at the hide site. No one, I think everybody fell asleep. And then, there's a cane lifting up this ghillie suit with this the ghillie net. Yeah, and it was a goat farmer, and we grabbed him and we threw him in the back of our little hide site, and we're trying to figure out who he is. Meanwhile, there's goats everywhere, and he's saying he's Kurdi. We don't know what a Kurdi is. We radio back, and they basically said, hey, you let him go, and we let him go. And we're just like thinking, hopefully this isn't Bravo 2-0. Yeah. And he comes back with his whole family. And they brought a bunch of like food and stuff for us. Okay. So we just sat up there and ate some food. I thought it was pretty funny. And then collapsed from there. Fast forward. Then we go stage for the assault. So 2nd of the 503rd was tasked to take Kirkuk, and 1508 was tasked to take Mosul. So we go back, reconsolidate, reorganize, and it was going to be a truck assault. Because the armor from the 4th ID hasn't shown up yet. So we called it Castle Grayskull at the time. It was an old Iraqi POW camp. Yeah. Really creepy in there. Really creepy. So we all go there. We staged up with the Peshmerga. Dudes are pretty much don't have any food, and they brought like some sacks of bread. They were passing around some of that bread. Man, that bread was so good. And the next day we left, and we trucked into Kirkuk. And we took Kirkuk with the help of the SF guys calling in JDAMs all night. There's so many bombs. We dropped so many bombs on Kirkuk. So many bombs. And we went in. People were just giving up left and right. There'd be some sporadic gunfights. But it's just, the turret gunner spinning around and laying them down. And it stops. You get those Fayadeen guys, like the loyalists to Saddam, the Darth Vader helmet guys. Yeah. They were the only ones really putting up a fight. And then, we staged up, and then just taking the city little by little, doing CQB all night.
How was this about adrenaline?
It was crazy. It was crazy. I'm like, on one hand, as we were going into Kirkuk, the Kurdish people, they were already flying the new Kurdish flag at the time, and they were like so grateful to everything that we were doing, and that was pretty amazing to see. And really great people, actually. But you still had pockets of people. Now people were in hiding, the Ba'ath Party members. And these are the guys that we need, because everybody's looking for Saddam. Everybody's looking for these weapons of mass destruction, and who's going to know about the Ba'ath Party members? So we just started doing hits, like organized, like this is like now CQB is a thing. We never trained on like CQB to the level of like what we were doing it at. It was always like go to the woods and do react to contact and stuff like this. So we weren't really good at it. We learned a lot of lessons.
The whole army, everybody.
I would say that the army in general, we had a lot of hard lessons. Yeah. The beginning of Afghanistan and Iraq, especially first and foremost the mindset. Think about peacetime army to wartime army.
Yeah.
And there were so many guys that were still in this peacetime mindset. Leaders were it was really hard for them to just like, not leaders in the 173rd, because they embodied, you know, that attitude, just go smash everything. But that got us in trouble a few times. You know, got guys killed actually, you know, driving through IEDs and not like taking any of the threats. Guys getting shot in the house, you know. There's a lot of lessons learned, but, you know, we learned them and we applied techniques like really quickly. So, yeah, we take Kirkuk. We end up going into a safe house, the first safe house. We were with some SF guys, and it turned out that SF guy that I first met, he later, fast forward in my future, he becomes my team sergeant. You know, pretty crazy story. Yeah. And he was a young SF guy on that deployment. And, we were sharing some space with them, and then we got told to move to another location, and then we took Chemical Ali's, that was his nickname, his old mansion, and we took it over. We had 2 platoons. We had the mortar platoon, and the scout platoon had this area. It was pretty cool. Going to the house, though, was pretty wild because there was a guy that shot himself in the head. You know, a lot of Bath Party members killing themselves, and it was right near the oil field. So you just smelled oil. Like everybody just smelled like oil for the first couple of days.
A lot of impression. Or is it okay? Is it first mission, and then from the beginning, you always on a high adrenaline.
Yeah, it just never stopped.
It never stopped.
It never stopped. You never had a chance to reset.
This goes for days or weeks or months.
Absolutely. So I think we're about a month in, and we finally got into our safe house or whatever, basically a place where we could call a base of operation. So you had Able Company, they had a house. You had Battle Company and Chosen Company. Then the headquarters element, they took the big airfield, the big one in Kirkuk. So kind of spread out around the city, and now we can start conducting operations, you know, to find these Bath Party guys, and get organized essentially, and have a place to like literally call home. And it was interesting. So we're about a month into our safe house, and then we get rocketed. Some guys drive up with RPGs, shoot RPGs at the house, and then hit us with mortars as well. So we had some mortars. Mortars were going up and over the house, and they welded the mortar tube in the back of a pickup truck. So you got to think, like, we thought the war's over, like we won the war and like we're going home soon. And now that we're starting a whole nother phase of.
So also the mindset was still in a more peace way.
I think we started to calm down. We get a little bit lackadaisical, a little bit, because all the main stuff was over. I mean, we're about 3-4 months in, and then one of those RPGs comes through the window, and we had a guy sleeping near the window with his legs facing towards the window, and it took his legs off. Wow. So it charred his legs, basically splattered his legs all over the wall, charred it to the wall. And the sound inside of the house was so loud. There's just black smoke, people yelling and screaming everywhere. Because that thing went through the window and blew up, which is crazy. It's chaos everywhere. And another RPG hit the side of the house. So that was like the first attack on us where we weren't initiating any attacks. It was always us, you know, initiating stuff. Now there's this new thing. They weren't wearing uniforms. They, you know, you couldn't tell. They were doing like weird, like Indian tactic type stuff, you know? And they, So I grabbed my gun, and I just remembered like it was like waking up out of a dead sleep, just thinking, you know, what the heck just happened? And I just hear people yelling and screaming. So I grab my gun, and I'm running up to the roof to get some SA on things. So I had to run past the dude that got his leg shot off, and our platoon sergeant already had some tourniquets on his legs, and he was dragging him to the bathroom. Because, I mean, it's always safe to say, like, the bathroom's always a good place to make a CCP, just because you have running water there. And it's like, generally speaking, there's no windows in bathrooms. So it's always good to make a casualty stuff there. So I remember he was dragging him. He had 2 tourniquets. And I just looked up as I was running past it, just the amount of blood that was like charred to the wall. And I'm just like, okay, that happened. All right, move past it, get to the rooftop. We'll see if anybody else is up there. But those guys were long gone, you know, and we're up there thinking they're going to come back, and nobody came back. So then we got like groups of guys together, and we pushed everybody out. We were running around, town. We're all dismounted, looking for these dudes, asking people questions, and nobody knew anything about these guys. And that's when I knew, like, okay, warfare is different now. Mm-hmm. We have to get more organized on our base defense posture. So we sandbagged up all the windows. I mean, brought the HESCO barriers in when they started first coming out. And we just fortified, made it a fortress there. Yeah, so we lived there for about a year and just did operations. We went into Balad.
Without vacation, you were 1 year in
They were
Iraq?
doing something where it was, you could go to, I think it was Qatar or something for like 2 weeks.
But you were always in somewhere in the Middle East, not you couldn't go home to Italy or even to the US.
I think there were some guys by exceptions or whatever, but it was like you were there for the whole deployment. But this like Dakar thing, it was kind of a turn and burn. I'd always just give it to my guys because, I'm here to fight a war. I'm not here to go on vacation.
Yes, of course. But I think it's also interesting for people who are not in these fields where you have been to see you're 1 year in war. You're always on pressure. You have always to deal with very dangerous things, and it can happen every second. Yeah, when you're not prepared and when you're sleeping and your legs are on the wrong position of a next to a window.
And next thing you know, your legs are gone. That guy was like 20 years old. Wow. You know what I mean? And that was the first thing I was thinking. Like his entire rest of his life is going to be completely different. Yeah. But he lived. That's all that matters. You know what I mean? I would say that when we were talking about the sorry, a little TBI moment. I was just thinking, you have to understand, when we were there was no internet, there was no cell phones. I mean, it was writing letters, like
to your family, or
to your family, girlfriends.
You had a girlfriend at the time?
I had a girlfriend kind of at the time, It was an Italian girl.
Yeah, Italian girl.
And then later, my ex-wife, because I met her in Czech Republic. Yeah. When we jumped in with the Czech guys, and one of the guys broke his leg, and she was one of the nurses. And then I met her there, and she didn't speak any English.
Okay, yeah. She was a nurse in Iraq.
No. This was before Iraq, and one of the training.
Okay, during the training.
Yeah. Sorry. Because we're doing a lot of airborne seizures, and it was in Czech Republic where they have the training grounds where the Czech army's at. Postievitz, I think it's Postievitz, something like that. But yeah, so writing letters back and forth, and I wasn't married. I was, these are still my girlfriend, and just doing hits every once in a while. But I do remember one of the craziest hits we did was we went into Balad. We took Balad, and we were tasked to take 2 buildings with 3 platoons, so about a company-sized element, and we were the scout guys, so we put eyes on, and then we ended up leading the assault on one of them. And this was... so you have to understand, the CQB wasn't the best. We did like full-on infantry assaults onto these buildings, where you had support by fire just lighting up the second floor, and you can't ID anybody. You're just lighting up, But it just shows you like we were so far behind on things, but we also learned a lot because we would just revert back to what infantry doctrine says, and coming up to the courtyard, I remember... throwing a hand grenade into the courtyard, and I remember another guy threw a hand grenade right behind me to clear the courtyard before we went in. I mean, we didn't have flashbangs. We were authorized to do all this stuff. So I remember the first sergeant Watson. First Sergeant Watson. If he's out there listening, he'll remember this. I remember he was running past, and he was yelling at that other guy, "Hey, why don't you use proper frag techniques or something?" He's like, "You better say frag out, motherfucker," because he didn't say frag out. I said frag out, but he didn't say frag out. And the first sergeant's just running around yelling at people for like correcting them on their tactics and stuff, which is just a whole nother level of a leader, man. Holding guys to a standard during a fucking firefight. They go up, the Army engineers we had at the time, they put this ridiculous charge on, and they blew the front door, And one guy was actually just coming down to open the door, and they plastered that dude all over the wall. So the family, of course, is yelling and screaming, and you're going through the house, clearing the house. And so at the end of the night, there was a couple bodies we had, and they basically wanted to collect all the dead bodies and put a guard on it because there was no way to get rid of the bodies. So basically put the bodies in a house, and we're just pulling guard on them, to make sure like their family could come and, the next day and do some kind of proper handover. But we were in the middle of like an invasion. There's no, handover or any of this. And some guy shows up in a BMW 5 Series, and I'm just so sick and tired of like smelling these bodies all night. Then we got to move the bodies, from one to another. And it's just like,
to get rid of the smell.
We had to move the bodies to help the family, or whoever these people were that took the bodies, and they were just cramming them in the trunk like a dead deer you found on the side of the road. It was really crazy to see that, and throwing them in the back seat. Yeah, so there was a little bit of like, you're trying to stomach that, but at the end of the day, it's either them or you, But I don't know. I mean, a lot of lessons learned during the initial invasion. There was just so many things going on. And then when we took the first casualty, Kyle Thomas, I still remember it, IED took his life. But he was the first casualty. And I just remember the sergeant major coming down to everybody. Hey, I don't care if you have to twist a wrist or two to get answers. But he's like, no more of my soldiers are going to die. I was just like, wow, that's crazy. Like, okay. But it was really sad losing him. He was in 3rd Platoon at the time in Able Company, and I remember him. He was actually a dancer, a professional a professional dancer, It is so crazy. Young guy, man, So fast forward, a couple more casualties here and there, and now Iraq's over. Now we're going home a year later.
Okay.
And now Iraq's just going to go on for another 20 years.
Yeah. So how is it to come back? How is to deal with this kind of experience when you come home?
I will tell you this, that the Army didn't really think about that too much. Integration wasn't really, it's nothing like what it is now. I mean, literally, we got back. I threw all my stuff in my basement of the place I was living at. And it was like March 9th, I remember, because it was like the Woman's Day or something, International Woman's Day. And we all went straight to the bar, and we got completely drunk.
All means you also
my team.
Your team was all, you lived at the same.
They lived in the younger guys lived in the barracks, and I had another guy that was off post. I think he stayed in that night.
And coming back means go back to Italy or go back to Cincinnati.
Yeah, we're back in Italy, back at our home garrison. But we're talking the first day we get there, we just throw all of our stuff there. We go straight to the bar and go drink. And we all got so drunk. And that's not healthy if you think about it. Like, where's the sanity of all that? I think I even got alcohol poisoning that night. And there was some kind of formation or something the next day. And I was just like, hey, I got food poisoning. I didn't want to say. And I missed like one of the reintegration ceremonies. But it was just like, oh, yeah, man, you're good. We'll cover. Hey, are you okay? Okay, cool. And because I was going like shot for shot with one of the guys, one Italian guy, good buddy of mine. But that is absolutely not healthy. Yeah. So we're still stuck in this, like, we own things, we're in charge of the law, and a lot of guys got in trouble. I mean, everything from, we were back on base, and there's like this internet provider area, and he was basically had an attitude with one of my guys, and I wasn't going to take that. I went down there and I slapped him across the face. Like, tell me, that's like, our mentality was completely different. And he started yelling and screaming, and everybody's like, what the hell is going on in here? And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm completely fine. But you got to think, this is 100% not correct. You just grabbed a random civilian person that works at this office and slapped him across the face. It was really cool at first, but when you look back at it, that's absolutely unacceptable because we had no idea what the long journey we had to properly reintegrate, because they were just sending us back and forth to war. and there was never really time for healing.
Kurzer Hinweis zwischendurch. Wenn du Fearless Patched unterstützen willst, findest du den Steady-Link in den Shownotes. Ab 5 Euro im Monat, jederzeit kündbar.
So if you, when you came back to Italy and then you got back on the mission 2 or 3 months later.
Yeah, we went back. Like they gave some guys some time for leave, and they.
Was it also possible to go home?
Yeah, it was, and I think I did go home at some point. I can't remember that first one.
But is it also difficult to talk to somebody who can't recognize what you're going through?
You got to think, like, I jumped into combat.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then it was just nonstop for a couple months. And then, I saw some things I can't really unsee. A guy's legs, like, cauterized on the side of the wall. And then, like, killing some dudes when I was there. I don't really want to, like, that's not nothing I'm bragging about, but it's war.
It's war, yeah.
I mean, shit happens, It's never perfect. Sometimes it's amazing. We had one, like, excellent operation that went down, and we ambushed a guy, and it was, like, picture perfect. Like, it was flawless. And, but still, I just remember, like, opening up the door, doing a dead check in the car and looking at this guy. He had, like, I don't know, 50 so rounds because we had, like, 3 guys open up on him, and all the shock groups were perfect on this guy. So it's like, you're proud of the dudes, but at the same time, it's like, it's reality just looking at you right in the face. I mean, his hands were like death gripped on the steering wheel. So crazy.
And you're not in your 30s, you're still in your 20s, and
still in my 20s.
You're a young guy, and this kind of impression is, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of, like, I would say, just on that one trip, the amount of, like, dead people you see it's just crazy. You just get used to it. It's just another thing. Whereas, like, but you're doing what you were trained to do.
Yeah.
They created this mindset. They want you to have no mercy or anything for this. But what nobody was ready for is, how do you change back into a normal person?
Yeah.
Guys struggled with this.
Yeah.
Coming back, I mean, there was, like, domestic violence going on. There were guys going downtown, getting in fights, like, every freaking weekend. Drinking was insane. Everybody was just getting blackout drunk every day just to, like, deal with some of that shit they saw. But that wasn't really a thing then. It was just kind of like, don't be a pussy, and we went right back to training. But it really, really took a toll on quite a few dudes. Honestly, it really did. Because some of those guys react differently to this stuff. Yeah, you're a tough, cool guy then, but then, like, when you're home by yourself and you're drinking, some of those guys, they think differently.
Did something change for yourself that now you're sitting in front of me and you tell me this is not healthy what you're doing? So when this was not your impression when you were at this age, or did it come?
No, I would say, like, it's what I expected. I expected chaos and just absolute, like, just random people making decisions on stuff no one had experience for. But what I was trained to do was dealing with chaos, right? And one thing I learned from Ranger School was, like, be able to always operate in the unknown. And I tell guys this all the time. You don't know what's behind that door. You don't know what's, like, waiting for you when you step out of the truck, going to arrest somebody or to go after. You don't know what's behind that. That could be your last time. But you have to remain mentally strong and absolutely focused on what the mission is, and be ready for contingencies, because they're going to come. It's never perfect. If it is, then it was well executed, but the amount of assets and the amount of, like, people that takes it to make a picture perfect operation, the amount of planning that goes into it. Our planning was like they were throwing a chem light. A guy would drive by in the house. Oh, that guy's guilty. They throw a chem light in the front lawn, and then we go out and we just attack the house. Know nothing about this guy. So it's like, be able to operate in the unknown. And when it's crazy, keep a strong head. You're focused on the task that's at hand. Make sure everybody's safe, and then. Okay, we got everybody. We got security. Do we own the situation right now? Okay, we're good. Let's take a deep breath. let's see what our next move is. That's like my train of thought.
But this kind of thinking, was this ordinary for all of you guys?
I'd say for the younger guys, some of them, yeah. But I had one or two guys they would just freak out all the time, but not necessarily freaking out to put us in danger. It was more or less like they just asked so many damn questions. It's just like, dude, you're a private. Just do what I'm telling you to do right now. Stop overthinking everything, because some guys just want to be like the doctors. When we don't need any doctors right now, we just need patience. If that makes sense. But that's also a sign of leadership.
Yeah, I think so.
So if you're telling people just to like shut up and deal with it, okay, there's a time and place, but you as a leader need to recognize, hey, no, that guy does need that information. It just takes a couple seconds to tell him or point to something on a map just to give him that feel good, So you just got to know when this happens, and that comes through experience, straight up.
I think so. Cool.
So yeah.
Maybe we can jump a little bit into the
SF stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was on that deployment when I was working with some 10th group guys, and I saw probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen was a guy smoked a dude with a javelin, and this guy was an SF dude. And I just looked up to these guys because they were ninjas to us. And we worked well with them. We represented ourselves very well with them. And our commander at the time, he basically said that, hey, the future of warfare is with special operations. I encourage all of you guys when we go back to try out for Special Forces, Delta, or just go to all these random organizations, But he's like, that's the future. And I thought that was really interesting because, like I said, he knew we were going to Iraq, or knew I was going to have a combat patch. And he didn't tell me. Now he's saying the future of operations is with special operations. So I knew right away, okay, I got to go to special operations somehow. And working with the Green Berets there, the 10th group guys, I was impressed, and they were like, hey man, when you go back, you need to try out. I'm like, all right, roger that. And I went back, came back, and I went to selection in 2004, and passed. And I came back to Italy, and I started my out processing, because I had to go to Fort Bragg for, I think it was like 2 years for the Q course, the qualification course.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. You had language. You had to learn your job. I got picked to be a weapons guy, and my language was French. I had to learn French, like crash course in French. Then they made
this was also really tough, huh? It was.
Yeah.
You had to learn this in very short of time. Huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You had 6 months to learn French, and you had to get a certain rating.
Yeah.
So you did French from 8 o'clock to 1700 every single day for 6 months, from Monday through Friday. That was insane.
And you have to pass this.
Yep, you have to because if you don't pass, you don't graduate. So that you just got to go do French again, or you do an extended portion.
So this also the language depends on which part of the world you're.
Yep. So I was thinking, okay, they're giving me French. It's Europe, because I knew I was coming to 10th group. I knew I was coming to 110. And I was going to be a weapons sergeant. And they're giving me French. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe we're doing some stuff in France. But no, at the time, 10th group just swallowed up AFRICOM. So the area of responsibility, Africa. So I was like, okay, didn't know we were going to Africa a bunch of times. So yeah, fast forward through the qualification course, graduate, no issues. I think...
how was this different to your basic training or your ranger training? Yeah,
because I was already a E6. I've been to combat. I had a ranger tap. I've led soldiers before. Certain phases were pretty easy for me. I'm not. It's always a challenge. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not trying to be arrogant when I say it.
No, absolutely not. No.
I have other guys there that were like specialists, and they had this new program called SOP-C. It was basically taking guys off the streets and making them Green Berets. So they had no Army experience, because when I was coming up, you had to have 4 years of Army experience, be the minimum rank of E4 to join SF. But now they had this other program, SOP-C, And guys could come from the streets, and they were like handpicked, as long as they had, like, some guys had college degrees, some guys were like, professional athletes, lawyers, doctors, and all that other stuff. So it was, quite a mix of people, but they weren't in the military, before. I've already been to combat, so for me, I thought it was kind of a breeze, but, there were certain portions that were challenging to think unconventionally rather than conventionally, especially during Rob and Sage. That's like the big culmination exercise.
What do you thought at this time about this program that's just guys from the street can do now the same training as
I was actually kind of pissed about it.
Yeah.
Because, and I think there were a lot of guys that were, they called them X-rays, no matter if they were an 18 Bravo, or they were always referred to as an X-ray. And because I felt like my rite of passage was different because, hey, I was in the Army, but that's me being arrogant once again, and having that ego. But hey, look, if you have a chance to grab a guy off the street and mold him how you want to be, to think unconventional in the first place, or to think like a special operations soldier, this could be a good thing. So they had some ups and downs with the program, but I think now they have the program locked in. And I think it's still a thing now, or they stopped it. I don't know. I mean, this is so long ago. But yeah, I pass. I get through SEER school. Phase 2 was like our SUT, Robin Sage, language. And so now I'm getting ready to go to the teams. I show up to Germany, and boom, there was my first ODA I was on. At the time, because we had 3-number labeling. Now it's like 4 numbers, how we label the ODAs, but back then it used to be 3. So I was 0, 1, 2. And basically the number combination means what group and what team and what kind of team you're on. So 2 actually meant mountain.
Mountain, okay.
And the 1 was 1st Battalion, the 0 was 10th Group. So 10th Group, 1st Battalion, the 2nd team, so it was a mountain team.
Was this fine for you?
Sorry. The 1 was the company.
Okay.
The company. Yeah.
And you come into a mountain team. How was this for you? Would you choose a different one if you could?
So I got pulled in. You always meet the sergeant major at first. You gotta like knock on the door, go to parade rest. Because I was in the Army before. Hey, show respect to this guy. He told me to sit down. It was Jeff Gray. This old guy, I mean, he's been there and done that. And he was just like, so, what are you good at? And I was like, yeah, I know some rappelling and stuff like that from being in the scout platoon. He's like, great, you're going to go to a mountain team. I'm like, roger that. Go report to your team sergeant's Ray Gukaisen. And I go up there, report to the team, and go to parade rest, and just report as always. I'm at E7 at this point because I got promoted actually leaving the Q course to the team because you're still like, you hold your infantry MOS until you actually graduate. So when I graduated, I actually made the E7 list as an infantry guy, but then it basically just changed over and it got me E7 when I was an 18 Bravo. And then I go to the team, reporting in, and Ray's there, and I'm just like, man, this guy's seen everything. All the guys are about my age or older. There was like one younger guy. He was an X-ray dude. And, we had a good run.
But the others were also experienced Green Berets, or were a same CV?
They had, so I would say the experience that they had on me was time on the team, like knowing how it works every day, how to be an SF guy, how not to be an Army guy, But for me, I'm coming from a world how to be an Army guy. But I adapted pretty quick. I mean, to be honest, because I was always one to believe like lead by example, right? So just keep my mouth shut. Hey, we're doing physical fitness today as a team. Yep. And my mind was just beat everybody. And I'd beat all those guys. And except for Ray sometimes, because he was just a freak. But, and then same thing when we're doing any kind of tactical training, when it's time for the 18 Bravo to run a course, like put on a best course ever, And that's how I earned my earned respect from the guys. You know, they'd bust my balls, you know, talk shit, you know, whatever. But some of those guys didn't even know, like, that I was already at war, or like I've been in, because I looked pretty young for my age at the time. And, you know, they clowned me a little bit. One guy thought I was an X-ray. No. I was like, no, man, you know. No. But, yeah, so on that team, we did a lot of deployments to Mali and Afghanistan. And that one trip in Afghanistan was probably the most craziest trip. Out of all my trips, it was that trip. 6 months of just pure hell.
What were the 6 months about?
Oh, man, so this was Kapisa province in the very famous Tagab Valley. And this is 2008, so it was the Taliban surge. A lot of guys coming from Pakistan. I mean, most of the guys you were fighting weren't even Afghani. And that was probably the most combat I've ever seen, like in one stint. I'm not trying to hype it up or anything, but there's actually some like news articles out of the First Spear magazine. And I think out of like the whole 100 and some odd days we were there, you know, it was like a total of like 100 and some odd days of combat. So not all at once, but just consistently. Like every time we went out of the base, we were getting hit or we were in direct contact with bad guys. We were always on operations, and we with support from all different kinds of elements that were out there. But our main task was to go there, and we were under the ISAF, like the International Security Afghanistan. So that was basically a combination of all NATO forces converging onto it. So we were teamed up with a Romanian ODA. So it was our ODA 012 and a Romanian ODA, and they were a mountain team as well. And we had one platoon of 101st guys with us, the 101st Airborn guys, infantry dudes, as like base security, and we could use them for like bigger operations and stuff like that. Really cool dudes. And we had some guys from the Marines, and they were part of like an expeditionary unit where it was like this team of Marines, and they ran like the ANA. So they were in charge of like training the ANA, and we were in charge of the ANP. So yeah, we had all these like different organizations at our disposal. We had some Navy elements there. We had some Air Force elements at our disposal. Yeah, and it was interesting. That was like the first time really working with different components. And we actually had on that first trip, we had 2 Navy SEALs with us that were attached to our team, because we didn't have the JTAC qualification, because we couldn't get a guy qualified in time. So we got some guys from NSW, and they were with us on that trip. And it was pretty interesting.
So if you go to a mission there, this was daily based, or was it you go out of the base, go on a mission, come back to the base, and if you go out, you were a big group, or
so it's very
mixed up, or
yeah, it depends. So we had a forward operating base, a FOB, what it's known as, and that was called FOB Kutzbach. And Kutzbach was named after the guy from the team that was just there, and he died. He was killed on an operation, and they named the FOB after him. And you know, it's sad, but Kutzbach, you know, he was a great dude. He was in Bravo Company. I was in Alpha Company. He was at 110 as well. And he had a crazy team sergeant, you know. He basically got injured too, and he left the hospital and went straight back out to the FOB and linked up with the guys. But yeah, so it's a small base in the middle of nowhere, and basically it's a great place to shoot rockets at and shoot mortars at all the time, especially when when we didn't have the high ground, you know. Guys would walk up the hill, they'd set up some Katyusha rockets, and they put incense, you know, light the incense, and that way you got a good, I don't know, maybe an hour burn. So it gives them time to get off the ridgeline, and then all these Katyusha rockets are getting fired right into the base, right over the base. Actually, the first day I was there on the FOB doing the handover with the other team, that's when I knew it was real, because I was in, there was like a porta-john and the backside of the HESCO. So you have a porta-john, a HESCO, rocket hits the HESCO, the porta-john falls over, and I'm trying to get out of this damn porta-john. I got shit all over me, and I was so pissed. I ran right up to a 50 cal, and just started shooting in that general direction where it came from. Then we see another one launch, and I'm just holding it on like full auto, shooting API, walking the rounds in on this. But who am I killing? Nobody. You know what I mean? And it's just like, but it's also what they look for. Hey, if we're going to fire rockets at you, what's your response? So in my mind, give them one hell of a response. You know, let them know I'm not here to mess around. I'm not scared. You know, like I'm just going to send a full auto, and I'm going to try to actually walk those rounds in where the firing site of those rockets are coming from. Am I going to hit anybody? No, I don't know. You know, I didn't know that they were using incense, you know, to give them time to get off the hill. But that was like my first thing to establish with the team.
Wow.
They're like, okay, Jimmy's done this before. Jimmy doesn't give a fuck, you know, and I also like immediately I snapped right back into that mode. So for me, it was easy. And that happened on the first day.
Wow.
So immediately I was in that mode. I always call it normally like a 2-week transition period. And when you actually turn from like this everyday person, you know, hey, I got to wake up, I go to work, I come back, I got to eat food, I go to bed, to changing into this animal, to where like your senses heighten. You can hear better, your vision's cleaner. It's really weird. Like you trust your instincts a whole lot more. You know, like, hey, I think something's about to happen, and then something happens. And it's like, it's really crazy. Like the hairs on your arm, when people say that, but that's a real thing, you know, and this is that transition period because you're
about 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks is what I noticed. Because all my time in and out of combat zones and, you know, or high threat areas, I always notice it's about 2 weeks. I get the lay of the land, the feel of the people, you know, what can you get away with here? What can you not get away with here? And then I adjust to it. And that's what SF guys do really well. They adjust. Conventional Army guys, they do not adjust. You know, they just get stuck in one mode. But when I transition into this like absolute animal killer mode, because where we were at, it was absolutely not safe. Everybody there wants to kill you. No one there is your friend. You know what I mean? So I was on a completely different heightened status. So going on mission and stuff like that, I was in like straight hunter mode. And that was just something that I've been programmed to do. And to be honest, I have to tell you, like after doing, there was multiple missions. I'll just speak about one in particular. We do the mission. We're in a firefight for maybe a couple hours, right? Maybe one guy gets shot. You bring the guy back. Everybody's like adrenaline dumping like, you know, like hell. And then it's all over. And now it's time, like you do some debriefings or whatever. Now it's time to go to bed. It's just like, so we would always just grab a beer from the Romanians because they always had alcohol. They had Polika and everything, you know. Grab a beer. I would just sit there in front of my, like these containers we lived in because they were just filled up with sandbags around the outside. I would sip on a beer and I would just think, what the heck just happened? And then going to bed that night, I would watch a little bit of Family Guy. I had on like a CD and that was like my therapy. I'd have like a little bit of that beer. I'd watch Family Guy and I would get the best night rest ever. But you have to think the amount of adrenaline, all this crazy chemicals from your brain is just on a whole nother level. And this is where the operator syndrome comes from. These like whole dumps of adrenaline and dopamine and all this stuff. And basically now your brain doesn't know how to regulate it. And there's like this valve that's regulating all the chemicals coming down from your brain to your body, to where now it's just like a flap of skin on there and there's no regulation. That's why you get these guys are just like, you know, staring at the walls sometime or just out in the middle of nowhere. They can't remember anything. You know, it's all like, you know, symptoms of, you know, the operator syndrome, which is all, you know, coming from like the TBIs, you know, PTSD, it all fucking amounts onto it. But I would say that now, was that a preferred mechanism to do that? Absolutely not. But I knew I would wake up, I would eat a little bit of breakfast, and then I would work out for 4 or 5 hours. And we would work out all day long.
How long did you sleep? And was it like a dead sleep?
I would say the days were short, especially in the summertime. The days were long. You go to like deep sleep right away, and then you would wake up. So I don't know. I mean, to be honest,
But
it's good sleep, really good sleep. And I think there was one night, there was like a small earthquake, and I could feel it a little bit. I was on the top bunk, and I was like, is there an earthquake happening? You know? I just went back to sleep, you know. But it was like a small one, but that was a complete sidebar. But yeah, you know, you'd wake up, you eat a little bit of breakfast. There may be some training or something. Go out to the range, you know, shoot a little bit. It was funny. The range we had, it was from 9mm all the way to 84 millimeter. We could shoot anything out there. It was so cool, and we just had so much ammo to shoot.
So, but if you during this whole deployment, you're after 2 weeks, you're in this animal mode, and you're. During the whole deployment, you're in the animal mode, but you have this rest. You need this rest times after the adrenaline kicked in, and then you come back to the base, and then you're completely deaf.
Yeah, completely die. So I mean, we had the 101st guys pulling base security. So thank God for that. And then if we got attacked, because it was pretty normal, the base getting attacked, we would run out to certain battle positions and we'd start lobbing mortars at certain TRPs, target reference points. Or, you know, most of the time there would be guys just crawling through the wire with RPGs shooting into the fire base. And that was just crazy. You know, we're just lighting them up with 50 cal and it was insane. They would try these like coordinated attacks on us, and then it just didn't work out well for them because our base security plan was pretty on point. We had a pretty good one, but it was nothing like, you know, how those guys got attacked and whatnot. The 173rd guys, there's a huge battle of whatnot. The whole fire base got overran by Taliban guys. That was really crazy. Complete sidebar. I think a couple Medal of Honors that came out of that one. I think there was one. But yeah, you know, we come back, you know, have a beer, whatever. And if we had a little bit of downtime, we'd all just get together and, you know, play cards, bullshit, you know. But we went to the gym like all the time. That was and we go to the gym for 3-4 hours.
But you also needed your time for yourself.
Yep. So this was very important. And all guys, you know, had different things, you know. Some guys would just be on the computer writing reports, you know, or other guys would just be, you know, playing games or something like that. You know, just being like a normal dude. But yeah, the alone time was definitely, it was hard to get because you're just always around people. But you find your ways. I mean, there's some pretty funny stories about that, but yeah, you know, there's always some team training going on, and you're just waiting for missions to pop. But I was doing some other stuff, so I was going out looking for missions, like looking for intel on bad guys, and then using that information, and then getting a plan together, and then we get a plan together as a team and go hunting. And yeah, I mean, we did a lot of operations during that one. Learned so much, and I definitely think we were in way over our head. We weren't really ready for what we thought we were getting into, and but we learned quickly. You know, we took, I don't think 3 casualties on that trip. Not died. I mean, you know, thank God, but almost. But I'll tell you what, those Special Forces medics, those guys are top notch, and if we didn't have them, at least 2 of those guys wouldn't be here today.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, the level of training that those guys have, it's insane. Yeah. For complex injuries. You know, one guy got shot. He got shot, 3 or 4 times? Yeah. One in the plate, one in the radio, one right in the, this cavity here right by the heart. And, you know, trying to stop bleeding from the armpit. You know, that's insane.
That's insane.
You know, a junction tourniquet essentially, and but stuff it with gauze. But those medics were able to get that and get fluids pushed right away, and then just carrying them out of there is a pain in the ass because vehicles can't get down to where you're at. I mean, it looks like Vietnam. You're walking through fields of like 10-foot tall marijuana plants and poppy fields and stuff, pomegranate orchards. Really wild. But yeah, I mean, that was a good trip. Learned a lot. A lot of good things, you know, came out of it. Lessons learned. Yeah.
So how is it after? What I'm again very interested is, you come back home. after such a mission.
That one was different.
Yeah, and it was different than the first time when you came back from Iraq.
Absolutely, because
what was the difference?
The amount of gunfights and fighting that happened during that deployment was insane. Like most of those Iraqis, they were just giving up. You know what I mean? Like if you're like attacking them, a lot of them were just giving up left and right. But like these Taliban guys that we were going after, these guys would fight till their last breath. They would like shoot and maneuver on you, whereas like the Iraqis, they'd shoot and run away. You know, these guys were maneuvering. They were very sophisticated. They knew what they were doing. They had like complex, things that were set up, and you're just dealing with, one problem after another. Okay, boom, IED goes off. Okay. Normally like that's it in Iraq, but no, that's just the beginning of the ambush. It's like how we would conduct an ambush on somebody. Boom, IED goes off, machine gun fire opens up. There's an assault element. It's really like I'm telling you, you got to think the Afghans, they've been fighting for years. They fought the Russians. Now they've been fighting us since 2001. It's 2008. I'm guaranteed they've learned quite a few things, and they were getting trained by other people outside of Afghanistan. So it's they were like very. They were there for a religious reason, and they did not want you there. I mean, think about it. If you had, where you're living, and all of a sudden a bunch of people show up, it's like we would almost turn into them. Yeah. I'm not sticking up for them or anything, but it's just like, it's crazy because you would do the same thing. But at the same time, like the animal mode that I've ever been in, it was just like I had zero mercy for these people, zero mercy. And that was difficult dealing with when I came back, because now I'm in Germany at the time. And this was before, I would say a couple years before the huge surge of the refugees coming in. And for me, it was pretty uneasy walking around downtown, because you'd see people that remind you of people and trying to hide the hate. The initial hate, to hide that and contain it, it was hard, because you just see certain things. You're like, okay, this guy's doing the same thing the other guy's doing. So that was hard for me, but that was pretty hard.
Are you on your own at this moment, or is what about your team? Is you together come back home?
We come back home, business as usual. There's a reintegration process. You can see how the Army got better at it. There was a full week, 2 weeks we had to do, a full reintegration with the families and everything. And you talk to the psychologists. They all wanted to talk to us because we were in the Tagav Valley. Because they knew that we went through some stuff. And, but the other teams did too, not trying to single it out, but we saw a lot. And when we came back talking with all these people,
you still stay together as a team.
Yeah. We're still together. We come to work every day, and then at the end of the day...
Are these the only people you can really talk in a specific way because they went through the same thing?
I'll tell you this, because as I was getting out of the Army, this was another thing once we fast forward, but the only people that understand us is us. And I mean that not just from an SF point of view, but if a guy was going to go talk to... Okay, you talk to a police officer, right? And they do a really crazy mission. Like a guy gets shot, or a kid gets there's just some crazy traumatic things, right? And then you come back and you're back at the police station and you don't really want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The only people you feel comfortable talking is the people that were there, the people that know you. Yeah. Because that's a trust circle. Because I'm always really careful about who I let in my circle when I start talking about mental health and stuff. But I also thought, as I got older, that was this this shield, this wall I would put up. Hey, oh, you're not one of us, so I can't tell you anything. But turns out, like, if you're talking to somebody that actually cares, talking about it helps you get over it, and especially it's important as the aging process happens, as you age in this lifestyle, because if you just bottle it up, I mean, the amount of suicides, how many funerals I've been to for guys killing themselves because they never had an outlet to talk about this stuff. And I felt so bad, when you see their kids in the chair of the pews, they call it, in church. And they're like, you just realize, like, dude, your dad's not here anymore because he killed himself. That's so crazy, man, because he was either drinking or something and he had nobody to talk to, So it's mental health, like, that's a whole nother episode. I could talk to you about that and how to get over it, and some of the processes and hurdles that I've had to deal with getting out of the Army. Think about it. I spent 26 years in the military, 20 of it in Special Forces. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, that's gone. Oh, by the way, Jimmy, you're living in a different country. So I'm like, totally like, oh man, it's a really hardcore challenge to my mental state and my bearing of being motivated and really testing my mindset. And I kind of like the challenge. It gives me something positive to do, because I think if I had everything perfectly in line, then that just gives you more time to think about stuff, But if you're constantly being challenged, it kind of activates like this healthy side of your brain, if you know how to receive it, because some guys will shut down, Some guys are done with it. But to have the same fire that I've had when I was a younger guy, I want that same fire now.
Okay.
And I have these whole 5 phases I talk about, the 5 phases of the operator.
No, tell me.
Yeah. Okay, I know we just fast forward like a bunch of stuff at SF.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk about it another time.
Yeah.
But I would really like to share this with you, the 5 phases of the operator.
Yeah.
This is something that it's just an observation of myself.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, great.
So I call these phases, right, that you go through as an operator. It doesn't matter, police, military, first responder, it doesn't matter. Hell, you could probably even translate some of the words into a civilian, and they can gravitate to this as well. So talking with the audience right now, I'm saying it from my perspective, but think of it from your perspective as well, the phases. So there's the first phase, and I call this the selection phase. This is the time, you finish your school or whatever, you go through all your childhood drama, all your bullshit, girlfriends, whatever, boyfriends, for ladies out there. Now you go to something you're trying to be selected to attend, meaning you have to work hard at something. You have to do something to show an organization, right, that you are capable of learning something. Okay. So that's selection phase. Selection phase happens. Generally speaking, selection phase, nobody really messes up. It's either for you or it's not for you. You're like, nope, you know what? This is too hard. I'm out. Okay. Your phases of the operator are over. Okay. But for the most of the time, people that go try out for something, that have a positive attitude, they get selected. And they don't really fuck up. They don't get DUIs, maybe here and there, but it's very seldom, because you're always trying to do the right thing every single freaking time, because you want to get selected. You want the badge, you want the hat, you want the special patch, or, you want that status of, I did it and I belong to something, because everybody wants to belong to something that's a winning team, right? So that's selection phase. Once you get selected, now you're on that team, and now we've just entered into phase 2. That's prove phase. So that's me having to do whatever I got to do to prove to the team or the organization that I'm in to let everybody know I am worthy to be here. It's kind of like selection phase again, but you're on the team now. You're the new guy, right? So now you're doing everything you can to show everybody, hey, it's for me. I've been here. You're proving so hard. And the thing is like all these phases are universal. So if you fail at prove phase, like, hey, you just don't have what it takes, we're going to kick you out. Most of the time you have to go back through a selection phase to get back to prove phase. So you just delayed your timeline, right? So proof phase, you're just waiting for that one time, a big firefight. For me, it was a big firefight that happened. I showed that I was completely capable and I had the total respect because I saved some dudes that day. And I'm not saying that arrogantly, that actually happened. You know, I think about all this Tim Kennedy stuff right now. You know, it's just like everything I'm saying is absolutely true, you know. So big firefight happens, 2 guys get saved, and, you know, you get like an award or something like this for something like this, and it makes the team look good. You know, now the guys are like, hey, we can totally count on you. You're totally worth it now. So you have entered proof phase. Mm-hmm. So now you are the guy that everybody looks to for advice. Hey, how would Jimmy do it? What would Jimmy do in this situation? Now you've just graduated from proof phase. Now you're in experience phase because you're experienced. You did something to prove to everybody you can do it. And now you have all the experience, you know? So experience phase, in my opinion, is your most dangerous phase in your phases of an operator. Because if you do it right the first time, you can go to the next phase after that. But for me, I don't think it was... I had a bit of a delay, right? Because with experience comes ego. And when your ego gets involved, because you're that guy, right? Everybody, you have to go to him. He's the experienced dude. He's the guy that does this, that, and this. But your ego goes up and no one puts you in check, right? You don't get put checked anymore. You kind of give up on that. So it's very dangerous, because the reason why I say that is this is when you start to think the rules don't apply to you. Okay, I can drink a little bit more. I can drink when I'm not told to be drinking. I can cheat on my wife. I can do this. I can, you know, the rules don't apply to me because I'm that guy, right? So this is where it can become very dangerous. And I've seen a lot of good guys go down because of drinking, woman issues, fighting, all this stuff, you know, like the
also,
stuff.
The problem, if your ego is too big in the fight, also in dangerous situations?
No, I wouldn't say that. Yeah, that could, 100%. Like, if you have that experienced guy and he's up there just running his mouth and he's not showing us anything, or he's the guy always arguing during planning, and he's not, like, letting the team plan, like, if it's just his plan, then it's not really like a plan. It's just his plan.
Is it also, would you also say that this is the kind of phase where your routine can be also become dangerous? Because,
100%.
Yeah.
You start developing bad routines because you've developed this idea that nothing can affect you.
Yeah.
You drink all the time. You're messing around with other women. And next you know, other people are seeing
you don't train
this.
well.
I'll do that next week. Yeah, I don't need to worry about that because he's never been put in check. So it's important during your experience phase, if you get put in check all the time and you're around a winning environment or an environment that promotes like doing the right thing all the time, then you'll be better. Because to navigate through life, it's always hard to do it by yourself. To navigate through life with mentors and people that care and have done it before, it's easier, right? So as an experienced guy, to do more mentoring and to keep yourself in check, right? And it gets harder, especially when you're older. And I understand that there's nothing wrong with that. But you can just showing up and being there with the guys, you know, even though you're not the strongest anymore or whatever, it doesn't really matter, but you're there. You came in at the same time. You're sober. You know, you walk a straight line with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, you know, and that's a hard thing to do because back in the day it was completely different during the cowboy days. Like, many dudes were doing their own thing, you know, and I'm no moral oral, you know, with this stuff, but I would definitely say, like, I have definitely learned the importance of having a healthy relationship with a woman the hard way. And now that I have one now with my current wife, it's unbelievable. When you work at a relationship, as hard as you work at your job, marriage is actually an awesome thing. And it's really hard to say that because my first wife, I was just like, oh man, I was always like blaming her for everything, but I never blamed myself, you know, and I never put any effort into it. I just didn't care because I was still, you know, messed up from, I'd go out partying with the boys all night. I didn't care. That was my priority, be with the boys, you know, and if other strange women came along, you know, it is what it is, but I'm being honest, but it doesn't look right. It doesn't say who you are as a character, you know? So I learned real quick in my experience mode in my phase, the ego got the best of me in some situations. Once I got back on track, I got checked. I got checked hard over an incident. I won't talk about it here, but but I'll be honest, it was something that I basically lied. I basically said that a certain thing that happened, I said it didn't happen, and I got in trouble for it. And that was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, because that put me in check. I basically had to go back to proof phase. I had to reprove myself, but I knew exactly what to do in proof phase this time. And I got to experience phase again, and now I'm in experience phase. Now I knew what to do. Now I'm cruising through. Experience phase is easy right now because it's like I'm that Darby recycle from Ranger School, and I'm walking a good line. I'm being honest I'm trying to be honest as much as I can to every single person I'm with, like just telling the truth. Oh yeah, I did that, but you got to be careful, like tell the truth all the time, especially to complete strangers. It was getting me in trouble a few times. Like, damn, Jimmy, you're really gonna tell him that? I'm like, yeah. But I just wanted to be honest with people. That was my thing, Am I perfect? No, absolutely not. But I will also say that on the flip side of that, was I there for all of my guys every single time a firefight happened? Did I ever flinch? No, not ever. But I would say I cruised through experience phase. Now we're at that fourth phase, the wisdom phase. This is now you have graduated experience phase. Now you're in wisdom phase. I would say wisdom phase is tough. It's not hard, but it's tough. The reason why is because now you're that guy that has all the experience and you're trying to educate and tell people, like, we probably shouldn't do it like that because of something like this or whatever. But you get frustrated with yourself because you're trying to formulate your words in a way you can have effective communication from the get-go. So you sound like some kind of wise old wizard, But people look at you as a wizard because you're definitely older. Hey, that guy has a balanced lifestyle. His work and home life is balanced. Like, that's hard to master. It takes years to master and figure that out. But also having faith and stuff like that, especially within a household, definitely helps. 100% on that. But I would definitely say that during wisdom phase, it's just, man, how do I talk to this brand new officer that just got here and he thinks he knows everything and he just won't listen to me, And you just get frustrated with like how to be creative. But it's actually a very enlightening phase because you're learning more about yourself. This is when you start to transition into this more humble aspect, like, hey, calm down, young Padawan. There'll be a time, like you're not this amped up animal all the time. You tend to let the situation develop and you look at it from 50 different angles. And the things that come out of your mouth are pretty legit. And people are like, that's why he's in wisdom phase, because he has his shit figured out. And he goes home, he has a good lifestyle, because people are always watching. Everybody judges. We live in a perception-based society. It's all about like what they perceive you as. So if you're out talking to every single woman at nighttime with the guys, well, everybody thinks you're a womanizer. If you're out, if you have a can of beer in your hand every single night, well, then it's like, hey, he's just an alcoholic, man, But I don't know. I know some of those old guys drink all the time and they still send it, but still, when you're trying to achieve like the next status in life, that's you have to get rid of this shit. But I would say that once you have figured out how to master words and communicate effectively, a lot of times you're so far in the end of your career to where now you just want peace and quiet. You just want that nice little property by a lake or out in the woods somewhere, and you just want to enjoy the nice things of life. You really want to reinvest back into the family or start a family. And a lot of guys will tend to go away. Like they just move to these remote places, I call this phase Yoda phase. Yoda phase. This is the last phase. Yeah. So if you think about it, I was a huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker, he's traveled through the Dagobah system, to find Yoda. But Yoda, if you listen to him, he says like 3 or 4 words. You must go and find it or something. Like he says 1 or 2 things, and it's like the smartest shit he's ever said. And he's out by himself. He's completely completely happy. He's completely content living in his swamp house. And everybody's just looking at it like, this is dirty, this is nasty. But to Yoda, it all makes sense. Yeah. So there's a metaphor I want to talk about. So Luke, young guy, seeking the Force, right? He travels through the galaxy a long distance to go visit this guy and get advice from him, or to get teachings, okay? This is where I encourage all the young guys out there to go out and seek those Yodas. But the Yodas are really hard to find. They really are. And when you do find them, they may not be around too much longer. So for me, the Yodas were hanging out at the VFW, the old VFWs back in Cincinnati. They would go there, and some of the Yodas, you could tell they're a Yoda, but they had still bad habits. Meaning, like, they would go to the bar, they would just drink a beer, smoke a cigarette, drink a beer, smoke a cigarette for, 3-4 hours. Then they would get up and leave and go. So what I'm encouraging people do, like, young people, get out there and talk to these older guys, because that older guy, he's probably wanting to have a conversation with you, but he doesn't want to let you know. And whatever comes out of his mouth is probably going to be really good advice. Like, hey, just tell me about life. What would you have done different, 40 years ago, So this is this quest and this path that I'm on to achieve this Yoda phase,
So you would see yourself in the wisdom phase right now, or in the Yoda phase?
Totally 100% wisdom phase. 100%. Yeah. But I'm kind of like on the halfway mark, meaning like the problem that I have, especially expressing my knowledge or my ideology or my way of how people should interact with people, it's really hard for me to explain it, especially living here in Austria. It's a bit different. I'm not in the States, but I'm like faced with another challenge, I don't get me wrong. There's some great people out there, and I got a great group of guys that I talk with. And it seems like we all gravitate together, all the soft guys here, we just all speak the same language. It comes the same walks of life. But, so it's trying to achieve this peace within myself, right? To be completely, because the stress that I have now, it's like, it's kind of stupid stress. Like, is this really stressful? But
so maybe you talk
to me at the moment it is.
Yeah. So maybe I think this is a good switch to what are you doing right now?
Exactly.
So you retired from the Yeah,
it's part of the plan. So, like, still working for Black Trident, but just changing my mode of employment. And it's actually, their idea, and I thought it was really cool. Because I completed like 21 months or whatever as a red card holder, and you can now you can start your own business, which is really cool. So why not like do another cool challenge, create something and still be in good, keep everybody in the circle, like great companies out there like Black Trident, Steinadler,
Steinadler, yeah.
Like all these guys, of course with the LE community, the Millsoft community, Austrian Arms, all these great guys that are here, and just really embrace the community. Like, I don't want to isolate anybody. I don't want to get up there and say, oh, I'm doing this, my stuff's better. No, absolutely not. I want to create an environment to embrace the culture, embrace the camaraderie, embrace the brotherhood. Because I think at the end of the day, when you get around your own people once in a while, it's just good, man. Hey, have a beer, listen to a rock band and just like embrace coming together and just like, hey, for one day we could all just like, we all work our ass off to do one thing, and that's to protect people. Right? And to keep evil away from good people. That's what we sign up to do. Whether you're law enforcement or military, that's your job. But to celebrate it with other, doers of the deed, it's super healthy. And that's also, the quest of, working on an internal thing that I'm always working on every single day is mind, body, spirit, right? Because I believe in this rule of three. Everything's in rule of three. Black, white, gray. Yes, maybe. The mother, the son, the child, or sorry, the mother, the father, the child. The Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. So I've been currently I have it figured out because the body is just a stupid bag of bones, right? The mind will tell the body to do whatever. Once the body has information from the mind, it just conforms. It's like a private, and the mind is an NCO. And I would say, I hate to say it, but the spirit part, right? The spirituality, it could be a multifaceted thing. It could be religion, could be self-reflection, nature, something to get inspired by, to shape your mind, to give your body something to develop for, right? So for me, I've been working on, and it's always a struggle, but I'm trying to do the best. I'm working on my faith a little bit more with God, and because I think through that, there's nothing like bad about it. It's positive messages, and it really shapes my mindset, and in turn, it makes my body just conform. Like I said, we're coming up on, almost 2000. I'm about to enter my 72nd hour of fasting right now. 72 hours of fasting, only water. And the thing is with this fasting, the only reason why I did it was on Sunday. I was like, I need to fast. I'm just going to do it. Why not? I saw some stupid video on YouTube. I'm like, okay, just do it. Try it. See what it's all about. But I've done yard work the last 2 days. I'm still in and out of the office. I'm still working my butt off. I'm here. And I'm laser focused right now. Yeah. Laser focused. Yeah. And I've 72 hours. I have not had one thing of food. And I'm going for 100 hours, so I have a whole nother day. Yeah. But that's because my body is just listening to my mind. I'm in control of my mind right now. Now, there's still more work to be done. Don't get me wrong, but I'm in a complete awesome state right now to where my body's just conforming, and it's amazing to have this power, because you think life is amazing, but life is not always perfect. Adversities could be thrown in life at any moment, and it's like, this is kind of the military thinking, I think, but just people out there in general, like for the general audience listening, I think you should always push your body. You should always push your body to certain limits. And it doesn't have to be crazy stuff like, hey, I'm going to fast for 24 hours. And I'm just using that as as an idea. Or, hey, instead of driving to work, I'm going to ride my bike. When I walk from work or from home to work, I want to say hello to people. I want to give people a hug. I want to be able to say hello to 3 complete random strangers. Like, look them in the eye, like, hey, how you doing? To the point where that person would think, man, what's wrong with that crazy person, Because I just see a lot of people, man, that just need a hug or a good friend, Just doing these little things, I guarantee you'll definitely feel better about yourself. Yeah, just these little things. So the rule of 3, the mind, body, spirit, it's really... the other crazy thing, how many triangles are there? There's 3 triangles: equilateral, isosceles, and a scalene, right? So when you look at these 3 types of triangles, like, and you look at the mind, body, and spirit, right? How balanced is it? Is one leg of the triangle longer than the other, or is there more of a disconnect from the mind and spirituality? Because ultimately what you want is a full equilateral triangle where everything's in perfect balance. Because, in order to have, I think, just life in general, it's all about balance. It's a push and it's a pull. Like, okay, if you're going to eat like that tonight, tomorrow you better do some exercise. All of life is a balance, man. And it's just trying to find that synchronicity of it, right? And it can be really hard, especially in some toxic environments. When you're in an environment that's always like, emails and all this deadlines and bureaucratic stuff, but it kind of like, it takes away the whole human nature of what what life is supposed to be. But it's just a fact of life. Now you just got to know how to balance it. So if you work hard as hell from 9 to 5 in an office job, and I don't hear from you on the weekend, you've earned that. I need to understand that. But yeah, so
wow.
Yeah, I know.
I think this was especially the last 20 minutes. This was really cool. I think this was
I've been wanting to write a book about that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, also maybe we already said you are now at Black Trident, and then you have this academy, and you want to show also the people some skills, or but more, it's more.
Yeah. So, hey Jimmy, why are you here in Austria? Okay. Quick story. Just, hey, my daughter's in Czech Republic. I'm just trying to be close to my daughter. And things are good, really good with that. Initially, I was supposed to work at Glock, and it didn't work out. And then I met this guy named Rao, and Wolfgang. Actually, Wolfgang. So Rao told me about Wolfgang, and I met Wolfgang, and then he's like, "Hey, got this Black Trident thing." I was like, "This looks pretty cool." And they were doing a phenomenal job with. I mean, the quality of the gear they're making for a European company. To be honest, it's really hard to compare it to like some of the American companies. But they were making some good stuff, and the pride of making it. Everything's made in Austria. All the materials are top notch, and I just saw a lot of due diligence there, and basically brought up the idea about an academy. And so it took about a year to build, especially the gym. Oh man, that was rough. So the academy, Black Trident Academy, it's for government agencies, on the mill side, the LE and first responders, or just anything affiliated with the government, just because of like paperwork things with how it is. So we've had a couple clients come through, and it's been really, really good. And I know they leave there like getting all kinds of stuff, like just mind blown, and really it's just a holistic approach how to train. And basically let me remove all of the stress and bureaucratic stuff, and let's just focus on yourself, your body, your mind, and your spirit. And then let's also add a bunch of shooting into it. Because
we see you have it on your Instagram account. I have to see a lot of action things.
But
so much energy. Cool.
And it's, being 46 to keep sending, and it's all natural, baby. It's all natural.
Yeah, I see so.
But it's work though. You got to work a lot. But hey, we haven't had as much clients as we would like, because it's really hard to deal with like the government agencies, just because of the bureaucratic stuff.
Of course,
But hey, we're trying our hardest, and we're getting out there. I mean, I'm at the point where I'll just show up for free and hey, you guys want to shoot or come there or just hang out for a day or something, just to get the advertisement out there. So I kind of saw like the gap I saw was, what I noticed was the civilians. Man, they were asking me like left and right for shooting, and
I think so.
And it's hard to say no. So my biggest thing is just making sure I'm, working with responsible people.
Of course.
It's
a different kind. It's also a different kind of topic in Austria than it is in the US.
It is. It is. I know it's like kind of like you're lowering yourself if you train with civilians. And it's
I think it's a more difficult topic, dealing with weapons and something like this.
It is. But the gun culture that's here, it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's big.
I was really surprised by Austria's gun culture. And the gun laws that you have, it's pretty. You guys have it pretty good here.
I think it's true.
I mean, it's not Texas, but
it's not Texas.
But it's better than nothing. Better than most stuff.
I think hunting is still very popular in Austria. And
it's beautiful here though. And I would definitely say that, basically changing the mode of employment with Black Trident. Still doing the academy stuff, but I'm also standing up Canon Ops. And maybe if you could put some of that info out.
Of course. We will put the info in the description. And of course, all your links, and you can see Jimmy in action on his Twitter, on his Instagram account. Very impressive clips, and of course we will put the link to the academy in the.
I'll give you the shoot lift fight link as well.
Of course,
we stood up a shoot lift fight thing. It's basically bringing in Anton from the SAMI project, and it's pretty cool. And then Art from Hardcore Athletics. He's an NSCA certified strength and conditioning guy.
Yeah, cool.
So we put together this course, and you can actually go on the website and book some slots.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you want to learn it from a from an US Special Forces, I think it would not be so easy to get something like this in Europe. So
that's here. Believe it or not, you guys have some phenomenal shooters.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's not. I think it's not so easy to have an US Special Forces in Austria to
it's crazy.
Give you some
really
training.
Crazy, actually.
Yeah, cool.
But Austria has been like my home. It's really crazy because now it's like, I love America. Don't get me wrong. And the whole reason why I'm here in Europe is for my daughter.
Yeah.
But this whole time since I've been living here in Austria feels like a home to me. The amount of people that I've met, don't get me wrong, there's still some grumpy people out there.
A lot of grumpy people. We are very popular for this, I think.
Yeah. But
especially in Vienna.
I'm trying to bring smiles to people's face, and just show people that, like, hey.
I think it takes more time.
It does.
It does. I think when I was in the US, it's easier to get in touch with the people and they're more open. But here, I think it needs a little bit more time. And I think the Austrians can also be nice. There are also nice people here.
I mean, I have a lot of Austrian friends, but like you said, it took some time. But once the time goes by, they're like my brother from another mother. You know,
absolutely.
But it's been amazing since I've been here, and right now I'm, trying to move and then trying to stand up cannon ops, rent another building, and oh man. It's just one thing after another.
So motivated.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I'm not stopping, man. All I want to do at the end of the day is help people and also work on my path to achieving Yoda status, which maybe another 10, 20 years before I hit that. But I just want to be in peace, man. I just want to do what everybody else is doing, just achieve that status of life to where it's just comfortable.
Cool.
But still keeping myself in check. And that's what I'm silently doing right now with this fast. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I think it was a great pleasure to have you here. Yeah. Maybe we'll do another episode. I think you have a lot more stories to tell, but I think it was very for me in this podcast. This is always interesting how to deal with this pressure, and then you gave a very cool experiences today, and I think also these phases you explained. This is also
absolutely
something I can absolutely agree. And,
I can see your eyes twitching. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And Thomas, just real quick, when you. Maybe for the next episode, there's still about 15 years of being in Special Forces that we left out.
I think,
okay. Just let you know.
Absolutely. Great.
Buddy,
thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thomas, you're awesome, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, buddy.
So, das war Fearless Patched heute mit Jimmy Cannon. Homepage besuchen und die anderen Beschreibungen von Jimmys Academy und von Black Trident, die packen wir in die Beschreibung. Bis zum nächsten Mal.